Well, this is the one room that the AC works.
Oh, I know.
We can tell you.
Yeah.
Jill, Jill, do you want a coat? I have a coat in my office. Seriously, would you like one?
No, I have one.
We have tablecloths right outside the door.
I'll cut a hole in it. I get it.
Yes.
Join the list.
Okay.
Yes.
Unfurling the thing.
That's right, and take care of this. This way. That's right.
I bet you're a good dance partner.
I am.
I could just tell.
You guys have?
For sure.
Are you talking?
Speakers? I've already sent an email. It said everything.
Thank you.
Supervisors, are we ready?
All set, yes.
Okay. Okay, I have turned on the recorder. The time is now 9:36 a.m. I'm going to call the meeting of the Venetian Community Development District to order. Today is Monday, May 13th, 2024. The first item on the agenda is the call to order / roll call. Those supervisors that are present are Rich Bracco, Ernest Booker, Ken Smaha, Jill Pizarnik, and Cheryl Harmon Tarana. On behalf of District Management is myself, Belinda Blandon. District Council Dan Lewis is present with us. We do have District Engineer Rick Schoppeger, Field Manager Keith Livermore, Teresa Dunawith, and Julie Cortina on behalf of Vesta Property Services are present with us as well. And for the record, there are audience members present. The next item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Ladies and gentlemen, we ask that you please stand for the pledge.
Please remove your hats. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the public comment portion of the agenda. Ladies and gentlemen, as a reminder, we will limit public comments to 3 minutes per person. Our first speaker is Mark Fayford.
Good morning.
You may have to move.
Maybe you're too
Miles
close.
taught me that.
Maybe you're too close.
Good morning. My name is Mark Fayford. I reside at 494 Badova Way. As of 4 weeks ago today, I was named a co-president of the Community Association, along with Tom Jones. To save some time, I will refer to the Community Association as the CA. Tom Jones is traveling in South America presently, so we appreciate the CDD delaying any further discussions on the Ajax agreement until the June meeting when Tom's available. Tom is very knowledgeable of the terms and background of that agreement. The minutes from the last CDD meeting state that Rich Bracco intends to meet with the Heritage General Management of the golf course as the matter pertains to property on the golf course. Mr. Bracco emphasized that it's the golf course's responsibility to act in this regard. Hopefully, Heritage will take the proper actions. I'll just spend a minute summarizing some relevant items on this topic. At the April CDD meeting, the district attorney provided legal advice stating the CDD is not permitted to allocate public funds for use on private property. In this case, we're talking about Heritage Golf Course property, which was purchased from WCI in 2022. At the CA's April 15th meeting, the board unanimously approved the following two statements. No CA money can be donated to benefit a private for-profit business, and the CA will give the remaining surplus funds from the Ajax agreement totaling $37,865 to the Venetian CDD for the purpose of landscaping or buffering specifically on CDD property. The CDD owns most of the land along the River Club's northern boundary and is in the best position to determine where along the boundary this money can best be used to install buffering between Ajax and the Venetian to benefit the largest number of Venetian residents. The Ajax agreement states, and I quote, "The contract is to provide for the installation of trees on the Venetian property. The purpose of the trees is to buffer a view corridor between the Venetian property and the Ajax property," end quote. So the agreement does not state specifically where the corridor is, nor does it state that the corridor means only on the golf course berm. Unfortunately, this subject matter has been so divisive within our community. We're talking about less than $38,000 in remaining funds. To put that amount in perspective, the CDD will be discussing today a $60,000 proposal for landscaping to renovate the Siltadella entrance. We could all be Monday morning quarterbacks and state what could have been done and should have been done over the last 12 years when the agreement was signed. This matter could have been resolved before, but it wasn't. So we can continue to make personal attacks between the Venetian organizations and personnel, as well as send numerous emails, sometimes containing misleading information, or we can and should move forward. We can be better. The CA hopes the CDD accepts these surplus funds to use for installing buffering between Ajax and Venetian property to benefit the largest number of Venetian residents. I think our offer request is timely as the CDD is working on the next fiscal year's budget. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Renee Perlman.
I just want to make, well, Renee Perlman, I live at 113 Medici Terrace, and I go out the back entrance all the time because I'm on that side of the community. And are you aware of so many people try to get in through that back entrance? At least once or twice a week, somebody is waiting to get in. And this week, the gentleman tried to get through and I left, but the bar came down. So something's going to break there. And I think maybe we need a big sign that says not an entrance, or some way to deter the people, because I know that it sends them to that gate when they want to come in instead of going to our front gate. So I was a little concerned about that at this point.
Thank you, Renee.
You're welcome.
And our final speaker is Darlene Schimberg.
Good morning, everybody. I've been sent here on behalf of the residents of Torcello Court regarding the noises coming from the pickleball courts. And I know that in your workshop, because I was here, you've addressed some of those issues. But I think it is beneath the people on this board when they are brought something by a resident to say, I don't hear it, so it doesn't make any difference. That happened twice to a neighbor of mine, and really, if they're hearing it for a reason, and if they can hear it when their doors are closed and they're inside their homes, there's an issue. It's not whether you can hear it or not. That doesn't make any difference to them. What makes a difference to them is how it is impeding their lifestyle, and they do not appreciate it. The other thing is that I want to address something that seems to happen all the time when there is a project. There is not enough due diligence done, and we are always backtracking to fix something that should have been addressed when it was initially started. I'll take, for example, because this was brought up in your meeting, the drainage on the pickleball courts. That should have been addressed while under construction, not now, costing us more money to have it fixed. And that seems to be the constant thing that happens, whether it's the tiki bar or whether it's the construction of the offices. I don't care what it is. There's always these little hidden costs that come up because we don't do our due diligence and we don't have the right people doing the due diligence. You can't take the same person's word for it every time and expect it to be right, because they're not always going to be right and they don't address the detail all the time. So I just think we need to do a better job on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Darlene.
I think we skipped the pledge.
No, no.
I'm sorry, I'm taking notes and I'm just out of it, but okay.
Must have been that Mother's Day wine.
No, actually, I didn't have any, unfortunately. unfortunately, but, all right, moving forward, we're gonna move into, staff reports. Supervisors, Julie does have to leave, earlier today, so she's asked if she could, be moved up in the agenda.
Sure.
If everybody's in agreement, could we move up the River Club report forward?
Sure.
Julie?
Thank you.
Thank you, board, for your consideration for that. So I'm gonna start off with a few items, and then Therese and Miles will talk about the quotes for the projects. So starting off with the GM search and recruitment, we had about 80 applicants, interviewed 17 that were applicable for the position, 9 were re-interviewed, and then we have 4 to present to the board. So I will be sending you those resumes for you to look at, and then guidance on how we can move forward to possibly select 2 to interview. And we'll go from there out of the 4, or if you would like to interview 3 or the 4, whatever you would like. Moving on to the Jonas Project, just to give a report on that. Okay, so we've started some of the cleanup for the, with the residents, though Ken assisted us to get a list for residents who haven't used their car within 1 year, so we're cleaning up that part of the system. We've already done about 1,600 and we have about 900 to go, and that'll be completed on Wednesday. Then on May 20th, Monday, we'll start a 5-day training, 2 hours per day, on working with the back of the house and the membership information to start off with. And then we will be going into the food and beverage part. We've invited Ken to participate in those calls, so he could also, hear what's going on with that and interject any information he would like to at that time. Does anyone have any questions about that? Okay. Teresa's gonna speak about the events. I do understand we still owe you the detail from the budget. I double checked some stuff yesterday, wanting to be sure that anything I know of, we can make sure that we have communicated to you guys. It's been trying to research the past year and couple of years just to get the right information. As a interim person, even though knowing about the business, some of the budget stuff is challenging just to understand how we should move forward on some of it, but I think we're good, and once you see the detail, that perhaps would help as well. You don't have yet, because I wasn't able to get my final quote, but in the La Sala, the left-hand lowboy bar cooler has been out for a couple of weeks. I've gotten different quotes on it. It ranges by product and also by a little bit by cost. I did go over it with Ken. It's actually not in the reserve until I believe it was 2026, but it is absolutely broken. And because it's original, it's not worth it to try and repair it again, because it would be just not worth the cost where you look at the replacement. So on that, I'm not sure if I can, Belinda, if you could tell me if I could send the quotes to the board. Are they able to look at it like that, or do I need to wait till the next meeting?
They can't make a decision outside the meeting, but if it falls within the authority of the chairman, he can
Would
approve
they,
it.
how
and then
much
it can
under
be
500
ratified.
we talking about?
Approximately $6,100.
That falls within Rich's range, he can approve it.
You can, or, okay.
No, anything that's, hold on, I can open the resolution, between 5 and 10.
Because it's ranged to about 8,000, so I didn't wanna just randomly give them just because I had 3 quotes, because I got like 8,200, 7,100, and 6,200. But the 6,200 is actually the preferred brand. A couple of the other brands I've done some research on, and the 6,200 one is really the preferred brand, so that's why I'm saying that one.
Let me just double check the resolution. You can go on, let me just do a search.
Okay. And then just to report, there was some kind of a bit of a misunderstanding on the River Club rules. We are absolutely having all of our staff read the rules and sign them, myself included, so we don't run into any other further discrepancies or question about that. We are gonna ask in the next meeting, so if anyone brings it to your attention, I do want you to know that we are absolutely researching the approach on asking the question about what meetings are supposed to be charged for. Because there seems to be some discrepancy on what meetings are charged for and what meetings there's no room charged for. I don't have actually the whole details on that yet, so we didn't ask to give you the whole explanation. But if someone does come to you within the next couple of weeks or reach out to you, I want you to know we're bringing that to get the guidance from the board to make sure which meetings we should be charging for and which we should not be charging for. And so I'm gonna turn it over to Miles.
Julie, before we go
Oh, I'm
on,
sorry. Yes, sir.
just a couple of things, on the Jonas system,
Yes, sir.
we're still looking at a, doesn't matter. We're still looking at a, July 1st cutover,
Yes, sir.
okay? So we need to be building a plan, communication plan to residents. So I don't know if Stephanie, somebody should be working on how you want to approach that, because there's going to be changes to all the reservation systems. The things that are resident facing, you might want to start getting people attention to say, we're going to be doing this in the near future, we're looking at a July cutover and so on.
Okay, so we'll do a preliminary one, then our plan was after May 28th after the 5 training sessions,
That's fine.
to have maybe more in detail. So we can do a preliminary one this week, just to give people the heads up. But I worry that there'll be a lot of like, oh, what's gonna happen, and we're not actually sure ourselves yet, but we can do a preliminary, very succinct, short explanation if that works for everyone.
Just give people, because it's gonna take multiple communications,
Yes.
because as we've all learned earlier this morning, most people don't read most of what goes out, so.
True.
Okay.
I also have a question about the GM. My concern is how long this is gonna take to, I know that we all want to interview, so my question is almost really for the board. Could we have a workshop at our early June meeting and interview the final 2 candidates at that workshop? So we are together doing that interview? Would that be
Yes.
appropriate?
What a good idea.
Because otherwise, it's gonna take us 3
Good
months.
idea.
to get
Good
done.
idea.
Legally?
Thank you.
Can we do that?
As long as you're not taking any actions at it, if you're just
So we could
interviewing.
use that, we could dedicate that hour to
Interviews.
give the candidates, if, let's say we're interviewing 2, give them each 20 minutes, then we can talk about it.
Okay, great. So in the June meeting, is that agreed upon? So thank you. We'll do that.
Yeah.
I'll have them schedule, but I will send you the 4 so I can get a idea of what your suggestions are. That'll be this week. So in the June meeting, 8:30, we'll have the 2 candidates just in the wings waiting and go from there. Does that work?
That would be great.
Okay, great. And you'll probably dial in, right, Ken? Okay.
Great idea.
Just another comment or so, Julie. This morning, I brought up at the workshop that the budget meeting, for me, was a little underwhelming in terms of preparedness on Vesta's part.
Yes, sir.
And it was unanimously agreed by all the board members that they should have been better prepared.
Yes, sir.
And I was disappointed in that.
Understood.
To be honest with you, okay? As we mentioned events, I just want to remind you, as we head into an election season, we have no religious and no political events. Is that right, board members?
I don't know that we voted on it, because the question I had was what's the dividing line?
Well, the only thing that we've had in the past is the meet the candidates night. But as far as having events specifically for candidates, it caused a to-do last year that could have been avoided.
The debate, you mean?
No, the use of this facility.
Okay, I think one of the issues we're having is the definition of political, because that is what has come up in the last about 5 days. And so that's the thing, I'm trying to research the actual definition of political.
So you want to talk about it with the charges for the room at the June meeting?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that'd be fine.
So just for my clarification, I remember we talked about this and I thought there were to be no like unfunded. In other words, you can't come in and use a room for free for religious purposes or political purposes. What if I have a friend who's running and I want to have a private meeting and rent a room and have people come? Can I do that?
No.
I really don't know the answer to that
Well, that's-
question.
I thought we were
That's a
advised
legal
against that.
issue. That's a legal issue.
That's why I'm looking at Dan.
Well, you're mixing a lot of things
I know.
together
I know.
that.
Which
that kind
happens
of
here
need-
every day.
But that probably need to be untangled in separate points, because it's, again, you're a government entity, so it's freedom of speech, freedom of religion, whether or not it's funded, whether or not it's, whether or not board members are gonna be there. And so there are multiple different threads that I don't feel comfortable just like giving like off the spot answers just because I'm worried that I don't want to give, district council, this is the way we can do it. When I think there are like several different issues that would probably need to be played out on what I've just heard thrown up.
So at our next meeting, I would imagine Andy will be back, but you could convey that to him that we.
Well, what specifically?
Can we, because I was under the impression that we cannot have political or religious events in this facility.
Well, can you fine tune and say, if someone's running for an office here, that would be political if it was within R&R or the CCD, or national or presidential or local.
I just want to get a legal interpretation of this. It's last year it came to bite me, and I was well out of the country on another continent, and had to deal with that issue. And it became rather uncomfortable. So I'd like to avoid that from happening again.
And I think the second part of that question for me is, does it matter if someone pays for the room?
I agree. Good question.
Because I don't know the answer to that.
I don't know. So we'll get some clarity on it at the next meeting.
Wait, so, political religious.
Wow. Define political.
I think, well, yeah, I think for
That's
me, the question is, should we be putting any constrict on them at all, or can we, because we are a government?
We need a definition.
Because, maybe a little bit of background for you, Dan, we've had some discussions about room fees and not room fees, and if I recall correctly, and please correct me if I'm wrong, one of the things about not charging is that if everyone in the community is invited, then it's okay for there not to be a charge because there's equal access to everybody within the district. But if, for example, I'm having a book club meeting and it's open to people from outside the community and only 10 people from inside the community, then I should have to pay.
Okay. So your question is, again, I'm just making sure that I've heard correctly. It's because I've actually, if I recall, I've actually done, it's been a while since I did research on this one on whether or not payments can be made for use of rooms. So it's the question of whether or not people outside the community, or if it's because it's open to everyone in the community.
That's not our problem.
That's
what Richie said. Are we permitted to have political events
In this facility.
Okay. Number two, are we permitted to have events, religious events?
Weddings, bar mitzvahs. It's a religious.
And the question with the religious ones before, our understanding was if there was no service involved, like a religious service, then we could do a dinner for like something, we could do a dinner, but there can't be like a religious service. And that's what the guidance before and with the other government entities that I've worked with as well, so that's.
Well, and again, if Mr. Cohen has provided legal guidance, I'm gonna defer to Mr. Cohen's legal guidance on it, because obviously he knows your issues, and more so the back history better than I do. That, so if Mr. Cohen has provided you guidance before, I will defer to that.
Okay, so what I'm asking again is that, just bring it to Andy's attention, so that at the June meeting, assuming that he'll be here, he'll be prepared to give us a little bit of a rundown on that.
Okay. Made it over.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Julie, may I ask you one more quick question?
Sure.
You mentioned that, there's, you said card cleanup, any cards not having been used in a year. You mean the pool access
RFID.
cards? Yeah, okay. it's
So if
not
you
some-
haven't scanned it for a
Okay.
year,
But, and does that apply at all to the back end system? Like if anybody, do we know that, for example, everybody who's in the system, isn't somebody who left 6 months ago? Is it just the cards or does it correspond to anything in your system?
yes, like if they have not used the card for a year.
Okay.
So that's really what we're doing, and like I said, we're open.
Our residents.
So, but it doesn't correspond to who's a resident and who's not, you're just
No,
doing
no,
inactive
cards.
cards. Yeah, so that's part of the Jonas system when we re-up and we
Right.
check, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julie.
Good morning, everybody. The handicap chair for the spa is currently not working, and the parts to repair it are obsolete, like they don't make them anymore. So we are looking into getting that replaced. We have two options here. One is actually a mobile chair that can be rolled around to wherever you want. It's a lot bigger and it's gonna require some storage, and also it takes 18 bags of sand to anchor it down. So it's a bit of a process, I would imagine, to move it around and set it up. But it is one of the options, and that is $10,965 with a $450 cover. If we want to do a stationary pool lift, that is basically what we have now. We're looking at about $7,999. So basically $8,000 for the one that we have now to replace it, or $11,000 for a mobile unit that could essentially be used for the pool and the spa.
Are
When
you,
you,
go ahead, you go.
when you say that it'll take a certain number of bags of sand, so that's to steady it as someone is put in or taken from the pool?
Yeah,
But as it's moved from place to place, do those bags have to be moved with it?
I would assume they'd be taken off.
Taken off?
Taken off.
Share?
Yep, probably put on a cart and wheeled around. I mean,
Typically, those are poured into the container for the counterweight. So you need to open the 18 bags, dump them in, and then it stays.
Okay. We have to be in compliance,
Mhm.
that's for sure. So when this came up a couple of weeks ago, I remember saying to Julie, you gotta get that, because we're not in compliance right now. Another question for you, Dan. If we have that device just at the pool, have we met our responsibilities, or do we have to have access to the hot tub as well?
I can answer
No,
Please.
that. It must be,
Yeah.
must be accessible, both the spa and the pool.
that answers the question.
Yeah.
In my mind, that answers
We
the
would not
question.
be in
We
compliance.
need the mobile unit. We must be in compliance. We need the mobile unit.
Stationary unit.
As
No,
well.
no.
At the spa. We
Why
have
do
two
we need a
units
mobile
somewhere.
unit?
Why
We
don't
can do one
we're
mobile.
doing one mobile unit that'll go wherever?
Is that compliant with ADA? I didn't think it was. I thought it had to be fixed.
No, it just has to be.
You just have to provide access.
Yeah.
Well, my question is, do we have to have one at the lab?
Well, if it's mobile, it can be at
No, why haven't we done it before?
So we currently have a pool lift and a spa lift. So we have two out there right now. The pool lift is fully functional and works. The spa lift does not, so, we can replace it as is for 8,000, or we can get a mobile unit for 11, and that could be used on either pool or spa.
And should the existing pool unit fall into disrepair and not be able to have to be replaced, we already have something.
Then we would have the mobile unit that could be used for either or. So
Is it a pool attendant that actually does the moving of the unit? I mean.
that is gonna be to be determined. I don't know, I mean, I have the photos of it and the size, but, you know, we would have to see where it's gonna be stored. You know, maybe a reservation service so that somebody on staff can have it ready ahead of time.
We would
Something like that.
definitely, we discussed it, the logistics, we would definitely have to have it as a reservation system because it would probably take two staff to wheel it to, isn't that correct?
Yeah, at least one staff to set it up.
Okay.
I'm not exactly sure, but it's gonna be pretty heavy.
It's got a lot of sand in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
no, it's,
And unwieldy, I wouldn't want one, I mean, I just for the,
So if we don't need one at the lap pool, are we better off putting in a new stationary unit?
That's ultimately your call. It's-
And we don't need one at the lap pool, right? Because there's another pool available,
correct.
correct?
I believe so.
Correct?
I'm not sure.
Well, it's more therapeutic, I would think, the lap pool for someone as opposed to being in the pool. If someone was physically challenged, I think,
Sorry.
so.
I would, my recommendation for ADA, because these issues do come up, is that you provide access to all your pools, because that's, then the issue is that then it's not a problem. I mean, because then we're not coming with someone requesting a regional accommodation.
So my next question is, if we get the portable one, can we somehow fix it at the spa location, but then staff could be reserved to move it if someone wants the lap pool?
I would say yes, but it's gonna be probably a big,
It's gonna be big.
it's gonna be a lot bigger than the stationary one. And there's photos of everything.
Yeah, I see
Can
it.
I just read you guys something from ada.gov? It says Title II Program Accessibility. Sharing accessible equipment between pools is not permitted unless it would result in undue burdens to provide equipment at each one. So I take that to mean, as a public entity, we cannot use shared equipment. That's what I interpret from that. Are we absolutely sure that we can use a mobile unit? Are we 100% sure?
If you had two, one for the pool, because exactly what you said, yes.
Okay.
But if you had the mobile at one and the fixed at the other, you're fine.
I see.
why would we do that? The whole purpose of the mobile was to service both, and if you can't,
And one of them is fully operational.
I know.
We're not gonna eliminate
but
that.
why have
But
a
I-
mobile one?
That's why I asked, do we need one for the lap pool? Because if we don't, then I would just replace the fixed unit
I would too.
and call it a day.
That would be.
And we don't have one for the lap pool now, so
No.
I don't think we need one for the lap pool because we're giving access to a pool.
Yeah, and I think as somebody who had a relative who's in a wheelchair, he's a young guy in a wheelchair, and this was years ago, long before Vesta was here, but he couldn't get in the pool. Well, he got in, he can jump in the pool out of his wheelchair, but he couldn't get out, and come to find out the equipment wasn't working. So that would be a problem if it was a mobile unit and we needed a reservation. There were 4 guys had to help him get out of the pool. So I think we go, personally, my experience, I think we want to look at the fixed.
I agree with the fixed because I also am concerned about moving a portable. That to me has got danger written all over it, so, yeah.
Agree.
I believe the portable, you push a button to drive it.
Oh,
And
even
the
worse.
Exactly. Because people have been known to dump them into the pool, into the spa, and the kids or whatnot.
I would make a motion for the fixed unit replacement at the spa.
Second.
Any further discussion?
The only question I would have, does the board want my firm to draft a contract for the installation?
Yes.
Okay,
Wait a minute, hold on,
Wait,
any further
Wait,
discussion?
they have to, oh.
All right, so we have a motion to be seconded. Any more conversation, questions?
Do we need a contract?
Dan's
Yeah,
gonna do it.
yeah.
Dan just-
Do we need a contract?
I thought we said anything.
8,000, what?
Didn't we say anything over 5 needed a contract before, or am I getting my numbers mixed up?
No, I think
Oh, I
that's,
think she had a contract.
Yeah,
I think that's what we said, Cheryl. I think you're
Yeah.
right.
I think, yeah.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye. Just a super quick question for Julie, or Julie on that, or Julie or Therese. Is the staff trained on use of the chair, and do we test it? Do we know? Maybe that's a question for you. Do we test the chair and our staff trained?
the staff, well, they need to be, all the new staff need to be retrained, but yes, we do have staff and we do have the batteries and everything works.
Oh, I see. Okay, so I think you test it regularly, don't you?
I don't test it regularly, no, but the battery we keep charged at the reception area.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, the next thing I want to discuss was a soft wash of the River Club roof. Just to keep up with all the homes in here to make sure we are taking care of our club like we're asking all the homeowners to. So I have 3 quotes. They're all the same procedure, which is someone on the roof spraying down a chemical solution that includes some bleach, and it cleans the mold and everything off the roof. And then it also includes another person on ground level spraying off all the bushes and plants as the soft wash chemicals come down to ensure that they don't get damaged or anything like that. The quotes range from about $2,500 to $4,500. I'm going to recommend using the company that we used for our pool decks. It's called Immaculate Exteriors, and they also do all the sidewalks in the community. They were the cheapest quote, and we can actually have the roof done, the gutters, the soffit, and all the walls of the club, as well as the tiki bar roof and walls and the tennis maintenance shed roof and walls for $3,450. And that's cheaper than the other 2 companies just to do the roof at the club.
I had trouble, I didn't find the quotes to be apples to apples.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, so I had some quotes done for several things. That's why you really kind of have to dial in on the locations on each quote.
I did.
Okay.
So, a couple of things. One, do they have to use bleach? Because I know there's some eco-friendly products out there that can be used that don't use bleach. And I'll tell you personally, I used Immaculate Exteriors, I didn't want to say conception. She knew, you knew what I was thinking. And I have to tell you, they ruined our Lanai furniture because there's bleach stains all over. And my wife is kind of upset about it. I hear you say they're gonna have somebody down washing off. We've got a lot of pool furniture. We've got a lot of new pool furniture. I'm concerned about that issue. So I'd like some guarantee they'll either move the furniture. You've also got the pavers. And I'm just concerned that they're using bleach.
Okay, I don't know if they haven't, none of the companies gave me like an eco or an alternate, but I can definitely ask.
Well, I've asked them and they've told me no, they use bleach.
Okay.
But I know there are companies that do, and the other company was a little more expensive, but it sounded like their process was more eco-friendly, if you would. But at the same time, it looked like they were only quoting the main roof and not the tiki. That's why I couldn't get out an apples to apples coverage. And then I know you haven't talked about pavers yet, but you got quotes for those
You were
too.
talking about Riptide?
No.
Oh, because Riptide didn't know.
First source.
Yeah,
pressure.
Riptide did the mall, but First Source was only
Only
and they were more eco-friendly, but they were only talking about the River Club roof. And I didn't
First Source
see
is-
anybody quoting sealing the pavers when after they're.
I thought I saw it.
Immaculate does seal.
Yeah.
That's on Immaculate,
It's
that's our 82.
Yeah, they do a lousy job.
I understand that, yeah.
No, I'm not sure. I know they're the cheapest, and I know it's a resident, but I'm personally disappointed with some of the work they've done.
Okay.
Doesn't mean they'll do a bad job here, but I do have an issue with the bleach.
Do any of the other board members have any comments?
Go ahead, Rich.
Pardon?
We've used Immaculate at our house. I had no problem with them whatsoever. We've used them here, and one of the things that I was surprised learning early on, some years ago with this, is that some of these companies charge us for the water, and Immaculate does not. Remember that coming up, that they, because they use a great deal of water with this, and they pass the cost on to us, whereas Immaculate includes it with their quote. Is that?
I didn't see water being charged.
I remember that coming up some years ago when you used it.
I haven't seen that, in my experience.
Nope.
I didn't see them in any of these quotes.
Okay.
Ken, did they take they must have taken the furniture off the lanai.
They didn't.
That's a big problem.
Well, fortunately, all of our pool furniture is at the pool deck, and that's not really gonna be near the areas being pressure washed, but I could relocate all the pool furniture, including everything out here, get everything away from the building.
Or just undercover.
Sure.
Yeah.
You got
What if
overhangs here.
Yeah,
I have a question. Okay, Immaculate gave us one for $8,200. It's more comprehensive, of course.
That is for all areas of the club.
That's a reasonable price to do all that, I think.
Yeah.
And I've used Immaculate before. You see him throughout our community. He does a great job. I have no complaints. I guess we pushed everything underneath, but I would more so support the more comprehensive approach to $8,200. Let's get it done now.
So that includes sealing I believe that includes sealing and sanding the pavers.
Yeah.
So we just had that done, so that'd be a whole nother pool closure, all that stuff,
Well,
which is no problem.
no problem.
But we just had it, pressure washed. So you're looking at 4,500 just for sand and seal the pool deck. I think it looks immaculate right now. So I wouldn't recommend doing a sand and seal on the pavers.
What about adding the guard house? It's pretty dirty. I'm thinking we should also do the guard house. What? It's the first thing people see.
Yes.
Am I the only
Well, if
one
we
that
take
thinks
out
that?
The visitors.
Oh.
if we take out that 4,500 and get a quote to do the guardhouse.
Yes.
I mean, why not? We had it done a couple of years ago, we painted.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it really needs it. The roof, the entire outside of it really needs some TLC.
Can we do that?
Yeah, I would
So,
suggest that.
yeah, I have a question. So it looks like Immaculate Exteriors is the 8,200 plus the 2,700, right? Because the 2,700 is just the roof.
Yeah.
And the other one is everything else.
Yeah, but like I said, I would take 4,500 off for the sand and seal for the pavers.
Right.
I wouldn't recommend that. Both the pool decks have already been done, so that's 1,000. Soft wash for the tiki bar, he bumped that down to $100. So, yeah.
So you're looking at under $5,500 then for the whole thing without the sand and seal.
Yeah, so to get, the main pool building, or the main, clubhouse roof and the walls, the whole building, the tiki bar roof and the whole building, and the tennis shed roof and the whole building is $3,450.
Okay.
The, well, the 2,700 quote includes the tiki hut and
Yes,
tennis shed.
yes, it does.
Yeah.
$200.
All right, well, I'll just break this down one more time.
So why wouldn't we
So
just
on
go with
the
that?
one quote for the 2,700, it's the soft wash for the roof and gutters, and then also the soft wash for the tiki hut and tennis shed. So that's 2,700. If you go back to the other quote where it says soft wash, building, gutters, soffit, and walls, that's $750. So you take 2,700 plus 750, and that's where I get the total for $3,450.
So that's the only thing we're taking from the second quote. I think that's where we were.
Yeah, that's what I would recommend.
So you're not gonna do the ceiling above the back area, you don't think?
That's gonna be the whole, I mean, I would assume that's gonna include, the building, gutters, soffit, and walls. We pressure wash ourselves, all the ceilings back here, maybe 6 weeks ago.
So the only thing we're asking then is to add the guardhouse?
It should be a couple hundred more.
Yep.
Okay. Okay.
I also think we should think about, on the second quote is 8,200, where it's, the third item down says pressure wash pavers on the roundabout. And then the sidewalk. Does any of, I think it's possible that those two items we should consider. I think the roundabout needs it, doesn't it? If I recall correctly, the roundabout's pretty dirty.
Yeah, I mean, everything is always gonna need constantly pressure washed. I was given the task to get roof pressure washing quotes, so I did. Anything can be done at any time, absolutely.
So my question for my fellow supervisors is,
Let's
do
clean
we
it up.
want to add those two items, one for 800, which is the pavers, and one for 1,200, which is the sidewalk through the Liverpool property? It's another 400, total of 1,200 more, on top of whatever the guardhouse is going to add.
So that would still bring it to probably under $6,000 for everything.
It would.
Seems to.
Yeah.
Clean it up,
Seems
clean it
to
up
would.
and get
It's
it.
gonna be here doing it anyway. Why not?
Okay.
Okay, can we do
So I'll
that?
get a revised quote that has just exactly what we've mentioned, and then we'll have you sign it.
Right.
Okay.
Do you want to approve a not to exceed amount?
Yes.
Well, approve or not, I was gonna say 65.
Okay, decide for-
I'll make a motion that we approve not to exceed 6,500.
Second.
Any other discussion? Okay.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Okay, so you'll get a quote. and
Yes, sir.
As soon as you get it, I'll sign it.
Okay, thank you very much, guys.
Thank you,
you.
Michael. Miles, thanks for your work.
Thank you. We now have item number 4D3, which is the consideration of the proposal from Commercial Fitness Products for replacement of the exercise bikes.
All right, I'm gonna take that over. Looking into it, we were asked to get two quotes, one from Matrix, one from Procore. And Matrix has the better pricing for the two recumbent bikes and the one upright cycle that we are wanting. This is the endurance, so it is for club, not for personal use. So it's supposed to endure more, and they will be taking away the old bikes. We did ask for them not to charge us for that. That was the best deal they could. Also, we had the tax taken out. So that is something that we did talk to at the committee, we agreed upon, and this is the best deal for us with the bikes.
We have to agree, if we're gonna do this, we have to agree to the disposal of those bikes, right? We can't just have them taken away.
Are you trading them in for value amount, or
Or
are they
he's just
being
removing them.
They're
surplus?
just being removed.
Are we okay with that?
You'd have to surplus them. I mean,
Surplus, we
comes
have
up
to
as
agree to
a
surplus
wash.
them. Okay.
Okay.
We don't own them, is that what you just said?
No, we are going to own them.
No, the ones that are going, do we lease them or own them?
No, we
We
own,
own
but I know there was discussion, is it better to lease, is it better to lease than purchase, is it better to purchase?
Okay.
And through the whole thing, it's actually better to purchase.
Okay.
Yeah, because we use
Yes.
them for a lot longer life.
Yes, sir.
Correct.
And they're warranted for how long?
Warranties, frame and drive motor, 7 years, parts and labor, 3 years.
Okay. I think we pretty well covered that one.
Yeah. So you are looking at $9,805 for the bikes.
And these are covered in the reserve.
I was gonna say, when would they due to be replaced? This year?
Yeah.
They were. And how much?
24.
Okay.
Well, we've got a lot more than that for cardio equipment.
Okay. Do you wanna go through them, you wanna put them together or approve them one at a time?
Together.
There's only one.
No.
What do we do?
The rest
The
is
other one-
audio.
Oh,
It's the audio fetch.
I think
Okay.
we should approve this.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve the proposal by Commercial Fitness, 9805.
Second.
Can you modify that motion authorizing the surplus of the existing equipment?
Thank you. And authorize the
Surplus.
surplus, declaring the other bikes surplus and have that removed.
Second again.
Any further discussion?
Okay, we'll call it.
All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye. Okay, done.
All right, we now have
The
FITREF proposals. So we are going to move into the consideration of the proposals for the audio equipment for the gym. There were 2 proposals presented, one from FITREF and the other one from Florida A&D Systems.
Ernest, you want to explain what this does?
Well, it permits the use, well, it brings us to the 21st century, basically, in that gym. You can take your machine, most of us use our cell phones, and you can have access.
Yeah, there's a miscommunication here, we apologize. But
Well, I was-
actually, the fit,
Yeah, I was
the
going to
fit
explain.
rev, the fit rev,
The FitRev is
Is
for
the
audio
TV.
fetch.
the fit rev.
No, FitRev is audio fetch.
This is the TV.
This is the
Florida
TVs.
AV.
So first off, when you walk in, you will notice that 4 of the TVs are purple. That means it is the kiss of death. And so they are ready to be done. So I did get a quote, or we got a quote for 5 TVs to be replaced and have them to be the smart TVs. And that is what was suggested, that's what you have now, or that's what we, anywhere has the smart TVs, and you are able to go in. One of the questions was, when you have the smart TV, lots of times you can sit there and at home, when you have your smart TV, you can sit there and go off your phone, dial in, you can stream and do all of that. Audio fetch is to go on each TV so that whoever is using any of the equipment, they can dial in to the TV that they want to watch. But it still allows the TVs to be changed by remote, not by somebody's personal phone. So that is the need for the audio fetch, so that you can listen to it, so that you can still change the channels, but each person on their phone is not having a phone war over changing TVs and things like that.
And just to
One thing I'd
interject,
say-
this is 2 audio consultants, sorry, sir. One audio
One audio consultant that, this is the way to go with the audio fetch, really coming into the year, 2024. And also then I went to look at it at another fitness center with the audio fetch in Welland Park and saw how it could operate. So we really feel that this is a way to do it with the 5 TVs and then the audio fetch per TV. So it's not just replacing the TVs, but then you're adding this audio fetch program to it, basically.
21st century.
What are the sizes?
As I was saying.
What are the sizes of these TVs?
I believe that they are 42 inch.
Because it isn't specified, that's why I'm asking.
Are they big, are the ones that are going in are bigger than the ones currently there?
I believe so,
Oh, yes. Yes.
don't know if you all got that email, but I did.
Installation was a bargain.
Did they install them or we did? They
Yeah,
installed?
Yes.
3.25.
With installation, yeah.
So do we need a separate motion for each?
Yeah, that's
Well,
what.
actually, we already did that.
But we,
No, you
We did the
the
bikes.
Oh, that's what we did.
This
that.
is for the equipment.
TVs and.
The installation of the TVs is 1,000. That's not as cheap. It's the next one.
325,
That's the audio fetch.
that's what we're doing.
Oh,
Oh, no, but Rich was talking about the TVs, which is the next one.
The TVs are in
No, they're not. Go to the
No, it's
next one,
different.
that's Florida AV system. Isn't that the TVs?
there.
Audio fetch is the 2889.95,
and that's
The next
complete
one?
with installation.
correct.
Okay, that's the second proposal.
And then the TVs are 3749.95.
Yeah.
And that's including the installation for 5 TVs.
5 TV.
And this comes out of.
So the
operating.
total cost together is really what you're looking at, right?
Yeah, that's what you said.
And I'm confused.
Yeah.
Does the fit rev quote by
Per
itself?
TV. I
Thank
got
you, it's
I
not the
got
TV. The
Right,
TVs is the
just-
next one.
That is just the equipment to hook up the
Okay.
TVs.
So the full thing we're talking about is the 3750 plus
For 2889.
the
Correct.
2900.
They're added together.
Okay.
And this is coming out of operating, right? It's not,
No. Not if it's a combined project, it's over 5,000.
so that was my question. You're gonna
It would
combine
come
them.
Oh,
Come out of the reserves.
Come out of
Capital,
reserve.
you said,
And what-
because it really wasn't reserved, because it's like a new thing.
Not really, we're replacing the TV.
Replacing the TV.
Right,
You're
and we're
now-
adding this other
It's an
feature, which is
upgrade.
the audio fetch.
I just packaged the whole thing as a reserve.
Okay,
You're basically replacing what's there.
Okay,
okay. That was my question.
so just to clarify, it would be a reserve, correct? Got it,
Not operating.
thank you.
Well, I make a
So we
motion.
need a motion to
Motion, I
accept.
make a motion.
Second.
Does this include, let me ask, is there any equipment that's being surplus for this?
The purple TVs, you mean?
There is only one TV
They're on their last
that
leg.
would be considered still good.
They're going to like-
But we're replacing all 5, just,
All 5.
you know, instead of having one.
Three tomorrow.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that we accept the proposal from FitRev for both the TVs and the, whatever this product is. called.
Audio.
Audio
fetch.
fetch.
Audio.
Florida
Audio.
AV.
Audio.
Well, they're two different companies.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Second.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Any call?
All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Did you have anything else, Julie?
I do not, does
Thank you.
anyone have anything else for us?
Thank you.
I wanted to just a quick, you know me, I always have one more thing, right? I know that we're not doing a lot of events yet, but once we do, something to think about, and I think it'll come in with Jonas, is that I personally would find it helpful when we're having events to be able to have some reporting on those events, so we see what the costs are, what the profitability is. So just to sort of think about
Okay.
that as we book more events.
Got it.
I would find it helpful.
Great. And just another guidance, we are for the next year, and we presented it to the social committee for just their informational purposes. But we are gonna plan the whole year out, October to, and Cheryl was at our meeting, October through May, so we could budget accordingly. Because when we do it kind of off the cuff, for lack of a better word, so then we can have a pro forma to go with each, right? So we can have a pre-pro forma and then the actuals, so we can follow accordingly. So I could say, here's the holiday dinner for December 8th, blank, and this is the pro forma, the ticket price is this much, and here's all the costs associated with it. And then we'll have I would call it like an after action report. So after to cross-reference it.
Yep.
So I think that is absolutely the way we should be doing this. I know we haven't, but we are moving in that direction.
It will also help with communication, which is a big
Yes, ma'am.
issue, and so, all around, it's kind of a better idea to have a calendar.
Sounds good.
My other question for you is, were you gonna talk about off-season brunch today?
Yeah,
Yes.
I heard you swallow all the way up here. I didn't know if you were doing it today or if you're gonna wait till the June meeting, that's why I'm asking the question.
so, okay.
Okay, so I was convinced that we should do an à la carte brunch. As I did further research, and this wasn't just a rash decision. I mean, really trying to give the best advice. As I costed it out, I went back to the shop and said, hey, can we reanalyze this? So is there a way we could work on doing the brunch at the current price, but with a lesser amount, so more cost effective, if for lack of a better word. So more cost effective, keep it at the current price, and go through off season until October. We are going to absolutely keep very, very close tabs on it, as we discussed before, keep very close tabs on it. But then have a recommendation in August, perhaps, or the beginning of September, to say in October, if we do need to look at a price increase, possibly to $18.95. Currently, we're at $16.95. Obviously, we did well yesterday because, it was Mother's Day, but, so that's what we're looking to do. So that's what it was gonna be.
So will you come back, I would like you to come back at the June meeting with what exactly you're doing for off-season, because my concern is, so the board knows, our break even for the brunch is 86 people. If we get 25 in the off-season, it's good. So we're talking about a lot of money to run that brunch through summer, even if you reduce, I think, the number of stations. I would just like a full report on that in June, so we can make a decision where we're not gonna lose a ton of money.
Why
We'll
wouldn't
still
we-
have breakfast if
Why
you
wouldn't
à la
you just
carte.
go à la carte?
That's what we talked about, is just doing à la carte.
It's a
Why don't we
kind
just
of
do it?
no-brainer, isn't it?
Yeah,
So why
it's a
don't we
no-brainer.
wanna do à la carte? What's the concern? Be honest.
I wanted to do à la carte. I was absolutely convinced that's the right thing to do. I think a lot of the feedback that I had gotten, I went over with the team, Trees and Shep, talking about a lot of the feedback, different comments people made, came to us, met with us privately, explained to us what their thought process was. So we thought, well, if we could do it at less expensive, so that means it would have less items. So there could be that relevance that someone could complain about that. Oh, you kept the same price, you gave us less items. You know what, I wanna do the right thing. I think it's just become such a controversial situation.
So I think that to help that maybe, I would bring it back to dining and social at the next meeting, which is before our next board meeting,
Yes.
and let them make a recommendation to come to the board on just whether it's à la carte or, because we can't do it today because we don't have the, we
Why are
have
we
the
letting
information.
I don't think that the committee should make an operational decision.
No, they're gonna
They're
make
making a recommendation because we need more information.
Okay,
And I thought they
Okay.
made a recommendation at the last
Okay.
meeting, which is why I'm confused. That's why I asked the question.
What did they recommend at the last meeting?
À la carte.
We also need to know what the numbers were from last year. I'd like to know what you did last year, June, July, and August.
I think we
Well, I
need
can
more
tell you- I can
information.
tell you May and September. September was about 30 people, and May was 90. That probably included Mother's Day,
yeah,
That's it.
that was an average, Kim.
average per brunch.
Yeah.
We don't have June, July, and August, unfortunately.
Okay.
So
I-
could we
And
come back
does-
next time with
does-
more information?
Okay,
Does the Chef Brian think it's less expensive to do a brunch for 30 people? I can't imagine. And you're gonna cut, and you're gonna cut down the amount of food and charge the same, so people will be livid about that. It just seems like à la carte makes so much more sense.
Yes, sir.
I just, and I'm not a restaurateur,
You're not?
but I'm becoming one very rapidly. It just seems like from a cost standpoint, what do you're the general manager, what do you recommend?
I still believe à la carte is the smart business decision to make. I think when I've had people come to me and, the comments are,
Yeah, of course.
we-
Who wouldn't want a brunch?
so,
Everybody-
we pay so much on our CDD, we should get something. I can't answer that. You know what? We're trying to say what the operational business part of it is. The right business thing is à la carte because you can control it. You don't have leftovers. So for example, that's the truth. I mean, when you go to a restaurant, you order something, they didn't make 3 of them back there and wondering which one you're gonna pick. I mean, they make what they cook and they do have, backup, but it is the right thing to do. And I would challenge anyone, and I've told people this just to understand, this wasn't like just random decision. Do research yourself and tell me where there's brunch. Because except for Mother's Day or Easter, places don't have unlimited brunches anymore. It is a challenge to find one. I mean, Council Oak does, it's $95 because they do this big seafood thing and everything, but the Vinoy, I'm thinking of stuff in Tampa, did a lot of research in Tampa, it just does not exist. And that there's a reason for that because there is a lot of waste and, it's hard to keep that. And even if you look in the industry in general, I mean, there's been places that have gone out of business. Sweet Tomatoes was a great place, salad, healthy, yada, yada. And they were not able to retain business because it's definitely a very challenging proposition when you do unlimited feed like that. So again, not trying to ruin anyone's thing and get a bad reputation. And once we don't do brunch anymore, people will be very upset. It's a challenging conversation to have that I've had, and we've discussed it, and you've heard some of the comments, Cheryl, as well. So.
It's not a challenging conversation.
It's a business decision.
It's a
Okay.
business decision.
And
You
blame
have
it
a
on
budget to
us.
operate with.
Yes, sir.
Blame it on us.
Right.
Yeah.
And I just want to check myself, because sometimes I feel like but the Dining and Social Committee was comfortable with an à la carte menu. Okay, thank you.
It just makes sense.
I don't know if they were really comfortable, but.
But I think they were okay with it. It
Okay.
does make sense, and that's why I wanted to bring it up, because I don't want to get caught in this back and forth. I think we're good. It's à la carte for off-season. There's still breakfast.
Right.
And yes.
Every restaurant in the area cuts back in the summer.
Yes, sir.
And we'll go back to the brunch in the fall and whatever.
Right, October 1st. Okay, we'll put out the word, we'll put out the menu, and we'll have a great, successful summer. Love to see you all on a Sunday. Great.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you.
Anything else for Julie?
So do you want to back up to Rick and then?
Just
maybe-
one comment on the budget. The last exhibit that Belinda sent out for the River Club did not have all of the 23-24 annual projections updated. I think she has that now. So hopefully the next one that comes out will be updated.
Ricardo sent them to me yesterday afternoon, so I'll have to rework the entire packet and.
But it's just that
send
column,
it
I
out.
think that changed.
Any other questions for Julie? No? Rick, do you have anything to report? Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Thanks, Julie.
Yeah, the first item is sidewalk repairs. There was a resident at 286 Luna that reported some ponding. So we went out there to look, and we're just gonna add one of those 8-inch flumes over there. There was also a report of a trip and fall at 109 Savona. Went out there to look, and the sidewalk, the concrete sidewalk is fine. There's no issues at all. There's a brick paver drive, and where the brick paver and the sidewalk meet up, it's maybe a 1/4 inch, but it's very minor. It still meets the ADA. But my question is more to council. Typically, the way we address brick paver driveways, that's the residents' responsibility. Because many of these brick pavers are embedded, they're bedded on a sand base that tends to settle. And so we typically reach out to them and say, you need to fix that. But if it's a sidewalk and they are tripping and they fall from the driveway to the concrete sidewalk, are they gonna draw us in the middle of a claim or whatnot? So I'm not exactly sure how to answer that. So that's why I wanted to bring it up, because in this particular, the incident, there is no deficiencies on the concrete sidewalk. But there's others out there that definitely are outside of the ADA, definitely. But we've not had the rip and fall, so.
So now is the concrete beyond the driveways, it's the just standard, it's on the grass area, it's not of someone's driveway, it's just the standard sidewalk?
The concrete, correct.
Concrete.
Yeah. And that's fine, there's no differential, nothing, so. But it's just right at the drive where there is a brick paver driveway.
I mean, it's paver typically that, especially the paver that typically becomes the residents. Because that's the way, and I would have to go back through how it's detailed in the CDD's documentation with who takes over, but usually with the brick pavers, especially on the driveways, that's the resident's issue, because when you put those pavers in, that becomes yours, because that's outside the, so I'm gonna make a note to have myself and Mr. Cohen review it, but my default opinion on that one is it's going to be just the resident's issue, because it's pavers.
So then maybe we can get the e-blast out the next time something goes out and we'll remind the residents something of that effect.
Isn't that the property owners association responsibility to do that?
Makes sense to me.
It's a POA, not CDD. Good, to your point about getting CDD involved, it seems to me.
I'll talk with Ray.
Yeah,
So, just a question then, the driveway, be it cement or be it pavers, it's still resident responsibility.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's cement and it's cracked and it's picked up,
Right.
it's,
Right.
our responsibility ends at the sidewalk.
Yeah.
But my thoughts are, if, the driveway's here and the sidewalk's there and I'm walking this way and I fall on the sidewalk, that is the CDD.
Right.
The trip was caused by a paver being a sunken paver or a raised paver, so it is the fault of the homeowner, so.
Right.
Where you land is,
I think the
because I'm gonna
incident
land
was,
at a different spot than,
I think the incident was just brought to light because the resident wanted us to know what happened, but I don't think it was anything further than that. So I passed it on to you because I wasn't sure if it was a sidewalk or not. And, okay, thank you for looking into it.
Okay. The next item, the roadway repairs. There was the incident on Savona where they had the hydraulics spill. They, at their cost, milled and they overlaid all of that. So they did a really good job on the repair. And if you think back when the city trucks spill, it's very typical when you have the hydraulics spill that they just, that's the repair, is to mill and to overlay. Now, unfortunately for us, when they did this spill, some of the stuff got in the curb line, and they really didn't do a good job with the cleanup of that. So we have reached back out to them, thank you for milling the overlay, but we really need to do something with the curb line. And then there was another place on Martelago, I believe, where they did some milling. And when they did the milling, some stuff got in the curb, and then it kind of solidified. And we tried to kick it off and we couldn't. So we met with the resident, he said, I was out here and he said, this wasn't done with the paving, it was done with the milling. So we reached back out to Superior and we told them they had to clean up that. And one of the other things that kind of concerned me is what they were referred to as the cow patties.
Right.
Wherever their travel route was with the asphalt truck, it seems like it dropped spots. So, and they're throughout, so it's not right where we paved, it's a lot of the areas. So I've reached out to them, they have reached out to Keith. Keith drove them around. So as of right now, we've not paid them for or anything. So I just definitely wanted you to know that.
Okay.
The signage should be completed, and one of the residents said something about a sign at Siltadella. Well, one of the signs we were to add talked about the main entrance is the quarter-mile up. So after the meeting, I'm gonna go down there to make sure that sign is up there too. Okay, the last thing that I had is the pickleball. We had the meeting with the bracket committee, and there's a couple wish list items for them. The original design that we had included a sidewalk that went around the north side of that, and our entrances was gonna come on the north side. Well, in our meetings with the city, one of the comments that they had that they didn't like was we had that corner cut off to go back. So one way to resolve that was to move the entrance to the south where we had an existing sidewalk. And then the quantity that we had of sidewalk to go around the north, we were able to build the staging, the area that we had. Well, over time, we find out that the chairs were put on that sidewalk to walk around, so now they're walking through the grass. And because the way we built that, we don't ever design the irrigation. When they sod, they're responsible to get the coverage. So, but they did put the heads right along the edge of the court. So when the grass grows up a little bit high and the heads don't come all the way up, they kind of hit that, and it drains back down onto the courts. So seeing that, one of the things that were requested of the committee was to put brick pavers. I have to put a surface out there that is considered pervious. So brick pavers meets that. So that's what my thoughts were, is to let's put brick pavers along the edge, and then we can get get LMP to slide back the irrigation. And then also, one of the thoughts are with the brick pavers is the first row right up against the court, just give me one brick high to create the dam. So whatever does come in off of that will hit that, and it'll penetrate through, or it'll drain off to the front. Another thing we found out that we didn't know about is there's a drain coming from the tennis courts. There's like 6 boxes there. So when the overflow spills out, and that's really what's probably doing more drainage across the pickleball than what the irrigation is. So we got the price from LMP to run that pipe all the way over to the ditch. And I think that's one of the things that's in your package. So there was Miles met with BNC Pavers for the paving. They gave us 3 options. The difference in the price is the difference of the sand base underneath that. And I did reach out to John at Rosetta to see if the thicker base is better due to the existence of the oak tree that is out there. My concern is brick pavers and tree roots don't get along. So is it better to have a thinner base or a thicker base? If the tree roots grow in the thicker base, is it less noticeable? So I kind of reached out to those guys to get their thoughts. But the price for the thinner base, and this would include brick paver along the edge where they walk up and down, larger the area for them to stage. And in the front where we have the river gravel, there's people still walking through that, kicking the rocks, the gravel. So LMP tells me that when they're out here doing their maintenance, they, sweep it, blow it back off, but they're not out here or every day. So we got the price to include putting brick pavers in those 2 areas. Then they're gonna take that river gravel and put it on the back side on that hillside back in the back. So that's some of the stuff that we saw, that the racket committee saw, and they made that request. So there are some proposals for the pavers. It was going to be 45 for the thinner, but the base, 5,000 for 6-inch base, and 55 for the 8-inch base. So again, I was kind of deferring to John to see what they thought was the best for the thicknesses. So I just wanted to share that with everyone on that. The price to rerun that drain line, I think, was $5,500, and then or $550. I'm sorry, $550. Then the price to relocate the irrigation, I think they were saying $500. So those were the 3 numbers that come off of that. Did I cover all that?
Yeah, so should we, it sounds like maybe we should wait on the paver area till you hear more about the depth, but maybe we should address the irrigation.
Well, all the irrigation.
And the runoff issues.
The runoff from the tennis,
Right.
we could do that. That would have to be done first, because they are putting the rocks in the back, which was already signed off, the bigger rocks. But that'll be right where that pipe would go. So that's what I would definitely want to get done right away.
Because it looks like it's coming, Pat Hinch sent me a picture, it looks like it's coming all the way along, excuse me, all the way along the north fence from that side.
Yes, and we have the bigger rocks that will extend all the way down to the east end. But again, if we need to really put that drain pipe through there first. So that's something that I think, like I said, was $550.
Right, recommending those things get done as soon as possible.
Okay. That right now is yes, and then they could finish up the rest of the rock, and that'll help out 2 different things. It'll help from the overflow from the tennis. It'll also help the irrigated plants that are back there. That'll help trap that, to keep that off of there too. And then once we firm up what we're going to do with the pavers, then that should take care of the rest of that.
So,
But I think,
make a motion that we do the 2 drainage issues, the moving of the sprinkler lines and also the installation of a drain pipe?
Well, the sprinkler lines, really, we can't move
Until
that
the
till we
pavers.
know when the pavers, because
Okay.
they'll put them at the edge of the new paver line.
Okay.
If we try to do that now, I'm afraid it'd get damaged when we do the other. But as far as the pavers, anything north of the seating, the area, I definitely say just go with the minimal base because there's no tree roots up there to be concerned about. So even if we did the thicker base, it would be just part of that, not all of that. We don't need the thicker base in the two river gravel areas. So the price I'm thinking would be, it would still be less than the 5,500 if we went with the thickest.
Okay, so let's get the drainage issue taken care of.
Okay, and I don't know, did you hear any from anybody else? Okay.
On the fountain, no.
Okay, well, as far as there have been some concerns with.
Wait, can you
the
hold on a second? You made a motion, but there wasn't a
I'll
second.
second,
so-
I'll second.
I'll restate the motion then.
Okay.
That we, as Rick has suggested, we do the two drainage issues, the one taking care of the overflow from the tennis courts. And the other one,
That's the only one for now.
okay, the overflow from tennis courts.
There was a second by Ernest. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please state
Aye.
Alright.
aye. Sorry, Rick, go ahead.
Now, how quickly could we do the pavers that way?
Miles had been working with BMC. I don't know if they gave him a schedule or not.
I don't think they gave them a date, but I think that as soon as you give them a call, you're looking within a week to 2 weeks to be done.
That's a need, definite need, because of the staging, people are there.
Well, and we know the maximum is gonna be 55, but I know it's not gonna be that because we're gonna stay with the thinner base north of that, of the staging, the area. So if you wanna do.
Well,
a not to
I would make a
exceed-
motion to that.
Not to exceed 5,500?
Yes,
Okay, so your motion is?
we move forward with the pavers, installation of pavers, and the staging amount in the areas that you described for an amount not to exceed 5,500.
I'll
There a
second that. Any
Any further
discussion?
discussion? All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Okay, the last thing, when we met out there, there are still some concerns from residents that live south of the parking lot about the sound. And I did go out there with the decibel meter and I walked along the edge. We are in compliance, but you as a board, you're looking out for your residents' concerns. So I fully understand that. But we are not violating any of the codes. But we did do 2 rows of the hedges and they're growing. I mean, they're not grown yet. So that will help. Absolutely, it will help. We got the row along the entrance coming in. We got the row along the south side of the parking lot. So that's gonna help when they grow. Now, the other thing that we talked about was adding a fountain in that pond south of the parking. And the fountain, what it would do multiple things. The fountain would be running, so the sound of the waterfall would help drown out that. It'll give you better water quality. When the water is hitting the surface, it's breaking the surface up. So right now, when a sound wave comes, if it's a smooth surface, it's gonna hit and it's gonna bounce directly. When it breaks up, then that sound, when it hits that, it disperses. So very little will continue to go straight through. So that's what the benefit of a fountain would do. And Keith was working with somebody. And
Yeah, it's the people that put in, take care of our fountains up front. And I called him 3 times last week, and the guy keeps telling me that he's coming out.
Typically, a fountain like that would run around $5,000. Now, the other unknown is the power to get there. They do have solar power, or if there's a close source at the area to run power over on that side, which you probably want any unit to be on this side, just so, because the units sometimes they hum. But we've seen running electric maybe another $5,000. Now, if they do have the solar panels, those cost less. So Keith is still just trying to hammer with those guys.
Okay, so we'll get a quote on that and we'll deal with it. But as we discussed earlier this morning on our workshop, in my layman's thought, putting a fountain in there would solve a couple of things. It would move the water, it would help us with possibly the fish kills that we get from time to time, or the flies that we get from time to time, because rather than that stagnant water as it gets up to 90 degrees, which it will very soon, at least it would be moving, so it would be a benefit that way. Am I correct with that?
Yes.
Yes. All right, so
I
we'll
guess-
get,
Other options for
Exactly.
sound reduction?
Um,
What other options are there?
Well, obviously the
acoustic
fence, but if you put that completely enclosed, the pickleball, it would be so hot in there. It'd be just really not feasible. Again, the vegetation, some of your neighboring communities, that's all that they have is the vegetation, and it has grown, and it seems like it's doing a pretty good job. So that vegetation, it takes some time. They are growing, I could see that, but there's still a lot of gaps.
Oh, they've grown a lot.
Yeah, but, so it's gonna take some time, so, but really, those are your options, is a acoustic fence or the fountain. Well, the plants, I said, we've already done.
The plants are in.
Done that, it just takes time for them.
I don't know, I'm not a proponent of the plant thing at all. The digging I've done is that plants really don't help make a difference unless you have, say, 100, 200 feet of forest or something. Because I think the challenge, at least that I see it, we have here, is that we've retrofit the courts into the community, and they're nearer to houses than they are in many other communities where they're newly built. So I'm concerned about us just continuing to throw money at the problem without really understanding what the issue is. What I have read about the acoustic fence versus I think what we have is the acoustic fence, I think, is a sound absorber, and that's a sound reflector, I think what we have. Is that right?
On the south side, we just have the windscreen.
The screens, because
The other
The other
side
side
are
is
the acoustic fence.
That's the acoustic fence.
Oh, that is acoustic.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes,
Oh.
yes, yes.
Yeah, I've not heard any complaints or
No complaints.
the north side.
Exactly.
I've not heard.
It's all being directed over here.
The whole idea of putting where we did was for the folks that live in the
Right,
condos.
right.
Correct.
And I haven't heard a word, and I think I would
Not
have
from the
if there,
condos.
if there was a concern, we would have heard.
Right. So
I've
all I'm
also-
saying is it's a complex issue. So that's my concern about just continuing to throw money at the wall. Maybe this will work, maybe that'll work,
What would the alternative be though?
I don't know. If I was a sound engineer, I wish I knew, but I don't know.
Well, that's why, I'm thinking that at least install the fountain and see if it helps, because we can't do the acoustic fence on the other side. We would probably kill people. I mean, we're just
Yeah.
all over
Well, the
it.
fountain, the
She's
fountain does,
laughing, but that could possibly happen.
which is why
Clearly,
we should
enforcement
really.
of the wooden paddle rule.
That is,
Well,
Which
well,
can
we
be
can
addressed
prove
by
That's a
hours.
noticeable difference.
When we met out there, that was one of the first things that we talked about. Now, they have several ambassadors, I think is what they call themselves. When they play, they put their paddles in the rack,
Yes.
and the ambassadors are supposed to keep their eye out for the paddles and to see if there's any wooden paddles. They tell them you're not allowed to play with that.
We
So-
spoke about that this morning, and Ernest is gonna take that up with the,
This afternoon,
With the-
at our meeting at the rec.
this afternoon's meeting. That is a major sound producer. I mean, pickleball is gonna make a sound, but
Yes.
the type of paddle that's used, based on where I live, I can tell the difference. You know, there are sometimes 3 courts going, and you virtually can't hear anything.
This morning, when I pulled in, I purposely stood back there to listen. There were 2 of the 3 courts had players, and there was one distinct ping every single time, and I kept focusing. It was one individual, a gentleman, that his paddle was way louder than everybody else's.
Yes.
So we can't
We've
control
probably
it.
all experienced the same thing, because I think we've probably all gone up there. And it's the equipment, you know, and they all look the same, I guess, but some of them are better, and Dave would probably be able to help us out with that aspect of it. Some of them produce very, very little sound. It doesn't seem to be affecting the game, you know?
But the problem is monitoring it, and how do we do it?
Yes.
We probably need someone, say if we had a tennis assistant, to be out there during these hours that is so pervasive. But there's a cost factor involved in hiring someone to go out there and watch it.
Well, I think that,
And that's been recommended by the chair lady of the racket sports. Let's bring in someone.
I think that if we embarked on a policy for the next 6 weeks, let's say, of ensuring that it's constantly being monitored, talking to people, you can use this, you can't use that, we could probably get this under control. Because people would learn very quickly that the racket is acceptable or it's not acceptable.
Okay.
I think using the ambassadors, as we spoke of this morning, is a good idea.
We'll bring that up today, like you said. And we have new signage scheduled to come,
Okay.
be placed up. And in one of the signage clearly says, wooden paddles strictly prohibited. Strictly prohibited.
But there's other
And-
paddles that aren't wooden that are also noisy. And
The ones I saw at
1995,
Publix or something.
I think in your meeting this afternoon,
Yes.
you could talk to the ambassadors, because like I said, when I was out there, there was 1 out of the 8, and there was a lady out there. She was overhead slamming, and it sounded hardly anything. But the one guy, he's just a regular hitting the ball, and his.
And he was there, what time?
Just before the
Around
meeting.
9 o'clock?
He was on the first court.
I'll find it. 'Cause I'm out there.
So if they can hear that, I mean, they can hear that. So if they would just approach the individuals, you know, it may not be a wooden paddle, but encourage this individual, you know, your paddle's noisy, and to help the community, can you get another paddle?
Well, we have the
Well, we have-
director here, the
we have them
director.
for, that they can borrow, right, David?
They-
You have paddles that are available, correct?
to rent or borrow?
What's that?
Rent, borrow, or buy?
All the above.
Okay,
It just depends on the situation. You have some people come in, you know, they need one, I'll give them one for a couple hours, no charge, but some people actually, they know they don't have a good paddle, they wanna try a few, so they sign up for the demo program, which means they try different ones every week, and then they turn it in and get another one, they're all approved paddles. But I did have an idea that I think could work, that we just started doing that, I don't know that it'll be 100% effective, but I think.
Dave, can you speak into the mic?
Oh.
Because we're-
I said, just hearing, everybody talk about this and,
Can you speak in the mic?
Yep. Thanks, Keith. I think hearing everyone, I think we can move towards more clarity and have everybody understand the types of paddles. One thing we just started doing to help make sure everyone has signed a release, because we get people to sign up for Team Reach. I think we're at about 125, give or take. One of the things we've gotten one of the ambassadors to do is we're making sure that all the people that have signed up for Team Reach, which we think are going to be playing pickleball or currently play, have a matching waiver. So that way we can keep track of the waivers with the people that are signed up to play. I think likewise, we can ask everyone to identify their paddle, just so we can make sure too that they don't have a wooden paddle, and also create the awareness of what the right types of paddles are. So I think we could do that and add that to keeping both the waiver listed by the name. We can also have their paddle. And again, it's just to create awareness that anyone that plays out there, that's our main policy, is the wooden paddle. So just a thought.
Okay, explain what Team Reach is.
Team Reach is the free app that we've been using from day one, that we encourage all the players to sign up for, and basically it's just a form of communication, maybe a little bit like Facebook, or a text that people use to send out to promote, hey, if you want to play later tonight, I'm coming up, anyone else? And it's used for that, or to promote events or things like that. And it's a free app. We have the passcode and everything listed up there at the pickleball courts. So we can try to control it that way as well with the paddles. I know that's a concern.
And I'll stress this afternoon at the board that we have to get in control of this. So,
And I think if we can't get control of it in the later hours, I think we have to consider limiting the hours. I think it's only fair to the people who live nearby. I mean, I'm far enough, I can hear it, but it's not disrupting my life.
It certainly can be a consideration.
and the sound.
That's all I had, unless.
Anybody have any questions for Rick?
Of course. Just two quick things. So on the asphalt, can you just help me understand, when we do a job like that, I mean, I know you and Keith aren't sitting out there with, lawn chairs and umbrellas, but how do we monitor what they're doing, when they're doing it, rather than finding out 2 days later, they've made a mess?
Yeah, we basically require them to staff with a supervisor, and really that's it. I mean, if you wanted to pay me to, like you said, sit out there with the umbrella, I could, but typically the supervisors that they have should be looking at that. And again, when they saw that they spilled, the hydraulics spilled, they jumped up all over that, and they said, we're gonna take care of that. But the cow patties,
Yeah,
to
the cow
me,
patties and that brown stuff that was all over the gutter on Mar-a-Lago and on that guy's driveway. I think if they could have addressed them sooner, then
yeah, I
it
mean,
probably would have been easier to
when
get
you're
up.
milling, it's loose.
Yeah, right.
But
I talked to him that day,
Yeah,
so it's not like I waited,
Yeah.
2 or 3 days, a week to talk to
Yeah.
them. They knew about the patties that day
yeah,
when they were doing it, so it was addressed to them.
yeah.
All right, we even tried to, Dan and I, to take them up ourselves, all right? And then finally, when I met with the paving company, the guy said, oh, we have a technique to take them right up. And I said, well, because our technique wasn't working. And so.
yeah, the concern is that we try to scrape it up, we may tear more up. So I'm thinking they heat it up,
Right.
and then they could
So
screw it
that's fine.
out.
I was just trying to understand, the rationale. And then just a quick question, really from the facilities committee, on the River Club parking lot lights. is there either code or recommended best practice for the number of foot candles for the parking lot? And if there's something you can send us and we can save time, that's good.
There is no requirement. Now, if you're playing tennis or
Right, it's gonna be a
pickleball,
foot candle, right?
there is a minimum. If you're doing swimming, there's a minimum of
Right.
3 candle. But as far as security lights, there really is no minimum.
Okay, all right, thanks.
And just to kind of follow up with that, the lights that I saw on the southern end, they're really tall. I mean, there's no reason we couldn't put in 16-foot poles out there that would help.
We're gonna have to trim a lot of trees.
Well, right now, we have to trim a lot of trees. And I don't know if those are some of the old poles with the heads that are not efficient. So if you're gonna replace them, you can probably get something way more efficient with it also.
Okay. Thanks.
I have one last question. Did you check the striping? I sent you an email about the striping.
I did, and I sent them some pictures of that, and they were a little sloppy with some of that. Yeah, and I'm not really sure what they can do with that.
I wasn't sure what they could do either, just that one intersection of Portofino and Torcello was pretty poorly done.
There was one spot where I saw they probably either the garbage truck or the trash truck drove through and kind of indented that made it look kind of
That
worse.
happened, I
But
think
that
that happened
very-
before the striping.
Yeah, but that very, well, no, because it's on the striping also. But then right at the edge where I saw where they started, it kind of, if we try to do the cleanup with that, I don't know if we do more damage than good.
Thank you for looking at it. Appreciate that. Any other questions for Rick?
Tim, I don't know if it's Rick or Keith, but can we follow up on getting a full cost of a fountain for that, both the fountain and power?
Yes, I have been, and, you know, and every time I call, they say, well, he'll be out.
Yeah.
So,
I'm just thinking,
things we
if a
can
month
do-
from now at the next meeting,
well, I'll have something before
it's
then.
not any
if I have to-
better, at least we don't have to wait.
There's other vendors we could go to very easily. I mean, every aquatic vendor, they typically have one of their arms of their company that can do that kind of stuff. So
Then I would,
if they're dragging their feet.
I get a second quote anyway, why not?
Yeah.
You can do it then? You can make some inquiries?
Sure.
We can make more inquiries.
Okay, we'll tag team.
Yeah, tag team, good.
Sounds good.
It's 11:22. Does anybody need a break?
How about a break?
Yes.
Okay, we're gonna take a 10-minute break at 11:22 a.m.
Really?
Okay, we are back on the record at 11:32 a.m. Supervisors, we did skip the landscaping inspection services report, which was behind tab number 1. John couldn't make it to this meeting because he's traveling. But if there are any specific questions for John, please send them to me. I'll forward them to him for response. He is answering emails, but he's just taking a trip. He should be back midweek. Keith, do you have anything to report?
No, not at this time.
Any questions for Keith?
You have nothing to report?
I have a question.
I had a great weekend,
Okay.
did some cooking and,
How often, LMP is gone, so I'll have to ask you the question. How often do they mow in and around the River Club?
they're supposed to, right, this time of year, it's, once a week.
Once a week. It's, you know my concern
Mhm.
at the entrance. They did a nice job planting and all, but sometimes it's a little tall.
It's supposed to be once a week, this time of year.
Thank you,
Well,
sir.
now it's just gonna be brown, as everything else is.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I do have a question
Maybe
for
we should
you.
do wet checks on our sprinklers.
Yes, wouldn't that be nice?
Well, block 2 has been turned on and, starting today. Depending how long I can run that, because we are in severe drought situation. So, when I start seeing the box in the pond, we don't want to, I'll have to turn it off. We don't want to suck mud and start passing it down the line.
Okay.
So, the block 2 is, we programmed it Friday to start, so.
Thank you.
One other question, Keith. You and I have done a review of the fence all the way down Laurel Road, and there is that one piece that still does not have a top bar.
I'll check on that and make sure and see what we have to do or the city has to do to get
Who's
that.
it? That's the city's, right?
The city.
Because I sent you that email, came from a resident,
Mhm.
and I responded to her saying that I'm pretty sure that's the city's fence.
Yep.
So, okay, it is. Thank you.
But since it's one small section.
Yeah, I'll see what we can do.
they may be able
And,
to-
I mean, waiting on the city to,
Okay,
so
Yeah.
we'll take a look.
Thank you.
thank you.
Just
wasn't a good
a quick one from me. On the Brazilian pepper extravaganza, so is that, I forget how many there were, but I added them up to about a little under
Can we
30.
wait till we get to that agenda item? Only because.
Oh,
it
is there
an
a separate
item.
agenda item?
Yes,
Yes.
yes,
I'm sorry.
that's okay.
Okay. Any other questions for Keith?
None at this time. but
So
I may wanna
under,
Recall the
Oh,
witness.
geez.
under district council's report, we do
Thanks,
have the
Kim.
ratification of the engagement of Burger Tunes, Elan Gaines, and Frank for auditing services. If the board would recall, during the budget workshop, I did mention that there was an issue with Grau and Associates. They did not want to stick to their original pricing as what was provided in the RFP. They wanted to increase the district by an additional $2,000 for auditing services. We were very surprised considering that Grau has represented the district for auditing services in the past. But Andy insisted that they honor the amount as provided for in the RFP. They refused. So we did go back to Berger, which was the second firm that provided an RFP proposal. They agreed to honor their pricing for the audit, which was $5,500. So we have moved forward due to the essence of time to engage Berger so that they can prepare the audit for the district. So they are currently working on it. Vanessa has already forwarded all of the required information. We would just need at this point a motion to ratify the engagement of Burger Tunes, Elam Gaines, and Frank for auditing services for fiscal year 2022, 2023.
I'll make that motion.
I do want to make a note that I am going to have a discussion with Andy about the RFP process. What we have not discussed is whether or not we want to continue with Berger, or if we can, or whether or not we have to go back to the drawing board again and issue a new RFP for all of the remaining fiscal years that were part of the Grau contract.
Or whether it can just be turned over to Berger.
Or whether or not we can just move forward and engage Berger for the remaining years.
This is a one-time.
This is just for this fiscal year.
I'll second the ratification motion.
Okay.
Okay, I have
So,
a question. Okay,
I'm sorry, I didn't catch who made the motion first,
I did.
and Ken seconded. Okay, I'm
And
sorry.
we did have the pledge.
Thank you. Thank you, Ken.
Hold that.
Thank
Well, I didn't have something to come back.
Thank you.
Can we make a claim for the difference against the prior auditors? Because you're indicating that they are refused to, they are refusing to honor their.
I don't know, that's a legal question for Andy. It's not something that came up during the discussions when we were going back and forth with the auditor. When we made the initial demand for them to honor their pricing, we were obviously refused, but there was no discussion or at no point was it brought up whether or not we can go after them for the difference. So that's an Andy question. I don't expect Ann to be able to answer that because I was working on that directly with Andy.
We should send them a letter or something or show some.
My only thing, just even my thing, is I don't know if any money was actually paid out to them.
There was not.
There's nothing to claim.
It has nothing to do with money being paid. I was like, hey, honor your submission. That's all we're saying. And they haven't, so I would think the difference, we could subsequently go after them for. And they don't want anything like that because it affects their abilities to go after other municipalities and all.
Doesn't look good for them, though. I mean, the next time.
Well, we have to weigh what that would cost us, opposed to what we might
you know,
recover.
Oh, time is up,
Yes.
but.
If we haven't paid them anything, what's the point?
So in the meantime, we have the motion and it's been seconded. Any other questions?
All those in
Can we call it?
favor?
Is this,
say
just a
aye.
question, is this the firm that Grow replaced
Yes.
a few
Yes,
years ago?
this was, I believe Berger actually did the audit last year.
Yes,
They do.
Oh, they did it last year.
yes.
Right, these people never got around to it.
Any other questions?
No.
Okay.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Did you have anything? Ken?
Yes, I do.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Not a problem. Just for a quick update, on the easement, for landscaping easement with the property association. That has been completed and it's in the process of being recorded now.
Okay.
So that's moving along. And, then the community association money, obviously that should be discussed in the June meeting as we are.
Yeah, so we're gonna put that on the agenda for the
Yep.
June meeting, because Tom Jones will be here to inform us.
That's what I had.
Can I
Yes.
ask a question in that regard, not to? Did you meet with Jay and Heritage?
Yes, I did. I met with Jay and then I followed up and at this time, they are not of a mind to do any planting along that Fourth Fairway area. So the answer is no. However, they did agree to put large vehicles in their parking lot. I should have told Julie this morning. That'll free us up because be it U-Hauls or be it travel trailers or boats or this or that park here, sometimes they take up 2 or 3 spots. Jay has no problem. They have plenty of room to put them up at the golf course.
In the welcome center,
No,
or
no,
actually
he
in the
doesn't want
golf
the
course?
welcome center used.
Okay,
So in the golf course, at the far end of the golf course parking lot, which adjoins Venetian.
great.
So I have to tell Julie before we go that all she has to do is call. And
Great.
with same parameters, 2 days, 3 days the most, but they'll do it there.
Can I share with you, I had a back and forth with Andy and Dan with a couple questions about, the CA money, and one of them may or may not be relevant. I'd asked whether the POA, because the POA owns the Shell Road, and I think it's 50 feet on either side of the crown of the Shell Road. So my question was, that may actually go up the slope of the north, if you will, the north slope, downward slope, if you're from the Fourth Fairway, if that's their property. My question to Andy was, is that in the district? In other words, even though the POA owns it, it's in the district. So if, if we were to want to plant something there, whether it was our money or anybody else's, would that be district property that we could plant? And his answer was, he's not sure. We need to check with Rick. So just, because I've been trying to think in my head how we can just break the do loop, the infinite loop.
Well,
on this.
just to clarify, it was a question more of where was, the question for Rick was what more was the boundary between POA and POA property and.
My question was, is POA property in the district?
And again, if it's still, even if it's in the district, if it's
Right.
not owned, if it's owned by the POA,
Then we can't expend funds.
it's,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you, okay.
Yeah,
Because it's not our, because it's
How
not.
about any
Okay, I
different
get
than a
it.
golf course? A golf course
So
is
it
in the
continues.
district.
Right, right.
But there are other areas, and certainly the Otello Wall area has been something that we've discussed from time to time over the years. And that would, if we were to accept this money and use it for that particular area, it would affect a large number of people in a very positive way. Very positive way. So something to consider there. And the reason why a greater percentage was offered to the CDD than the POA, and right now they're offering it all to the CDD, is because we are the largest landowner in the, of the,
Mark explained that.
Yeah. Okay, but,
Rick, in your meeting with Rick, with Jay,
yes.
did they mention anything about a proposed sale of the center, the Welcome Center?
That's all rumor, but no, he said nothing about it.
Okay, so you hear the same rumor.
There's a lot of rumors circulating. He said nothing about that. We spoke about plans that he has for the dining room and expansion of seating outside and that sort of thing.
Okay.
But that was it.
Did he acknowledge that burn is their responsibility? And he just,
He did,
Just
and
not a priority.
he said that irrigation was an issue. Now, I reached out to Rick Shoppinger and asked, because Rick was working for Kimberly Horn before anything went vertical on his property. And I thought if anybody knew where the irrigation line was, Rick Shoppinger would know. Well, the keeper of all kinds of stuff, he knew. And he firstly sent me an irrigation plan for the entire community, and I said, no, specifically the golf course. He then reached out to a coworker of his back 20 years ago, or 25 years ago when he was here, and sent me a link, which I passed on to Jay, saying, well, if irrigation is the issue, this might be part of your solution because this is probably where the major lines are, and maybe that would. So he took all that information, but then followed up, when I followed up with him, said they're not considering doing any landscaping there at this time. He didn't say forever and ever, but he said at this time. Okay, so that's the latest and the greatest there.
For district report, that's all I had, unless any of you all had any questions for myself or Andy I can take back to Andy.
I think we've already given you a bunch of questions for me, Dan.
Exactly, I've already bothered you guys enough.
But thank you for coming out today.
Yeah.
So just as a reminder, supervisors, our next scheduled meeting is scheduled for Monday, June 10th, 2024 at 9:30 a.m. Will everybody be present for that meeting?
Yes.
Yes. You'll still be here?
I'll be dialing in, if I may.
We also have a workshop that day, Linda. Yes,
The
that's the
plan
interview.
is, the plan is to have that workshop for the interview.
GM's interview.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Not a workshop, it's an interview.
Same time.
Okay.
I may have a hard stop at the end, but hopefully not. But I'll be here from 8:30 to.
Okay.
On the 8:30 portion, you won't have a speakerphone, so.
I could call, well, maybe I could call.
Well, if I
one of
get
the other
here,
board members.
if I get here, before, what I'll do is I'll get here before 8:30. I'll just connect my computer and connect you via Teams with a speaker. And I can just work out of one of the other rooms so that you're connected in the interim.
Could he be visual on Teams?
He can,
Because then you
yes.
could see the candidates. That would actually be ideal.
He
And you could
can.
see the people we're interviewing.
I can bring my webcam with me, yes, he can.
That would be awesome. That would be great.
Okay,
That'd be
they
great.
can see you.
Yeah, I
That's not
just hate
great.
for Belinda to have to come that early.
Well, I don't think they'll see you because you'll be visible here on the screen unless we connect to a projector or something, but
They don't need to
you'll be able
You
to
need to see
see the audience and the candidates.
Okay,
Stay
thank
with
you.
Janice.
Ethics training, I did want to clarify on the ethics training, if you choose to take a course that you pay for, it is reimbursable. So go ahead and submit your receipts to me and I'll process a reimbursement. If you don't want to take a course that you want to pay for, I think we've circulated the links, but I can recirculate links for free training if you'd like. Not everybody learns the same way. From what I'm hearing from other supervisors, the free training courses are a little difficult because you're just pretty much just watching videos. So they take breaks and I didn't get a great sense of it. I haven't done it yet myself because I'm a little bit of an interactive learner. So I'll see what I think about the free training courses, but if you want to take the free training courses and you don't have the links, let us know and we'll circulate those. On FEMA, there's been a little bit of activity. Keith and I have been going back and forth on the lift station doors. They wanted pictures of the lift station area damaged. They wanted pictures of the repairs. So I've submitted pictures of what we had. We did not have pictures of the doors when they were damaged, but I did have all of the information when they were repaired, pictures, invoices, all of that has been sent. But other than that, there's been no focus whatsoever on the debris or, removal, none of it. Everything has been the fee for the River Club, why is it so high? Typical questions, but nothing debris related yet.
Same project manager?
Currently, yes. I haven't heard any recent change.
Yes.
So,
Stay
it
tuned.
really wouldn't surprise me, but that's where we are. The next meeting is where you will approve the proposed budget. Are there any other changes to not to the 23-24 annualized actuals, but to the River Club budget itself? Because whatever is part of the budget changes will affect your assessment schedules. So before I prepare the final agenda where the entire budget package will be put in there, we need to make sure that the River Club's budget is accurate so that that copy is what is in the final agenda. Why? Because I bring about maybe 50 sets of copies to the meeting for the audience. So if you have any additional changes to the River Club budget, I'm gonna let Ricardo know also because we need to have a cutoff date so that we don't print error budget copies and the audience isn't following a misprinted budget. I wanna avoid that. So typically, we issue the agenda 8 to 7 days before the meeting, and I need to be able to have as close as possible proposed budget so that we can print off those budgets, because each budget is probably, 15, 20 pages long.
Right.
So if there's any additional changes that Ricardo needs to make, he needs to know beforehand, because then we have to incorporate the information into the assessment schedules.
I checked the last one that came out, and the budget column was what we had agreed to.
So that's perfect.
There were changes since the budget workshop we had, but I think, as far as I know, everything's there.
My notes, I went back and I tried to reconcile my notes. There were some minor changes, but not anything
We did make some
significant.
changes afterwards.
But I did have one question on the enterprise fund reserves, on the budget that you just sent out, and it might be my notes. But I have that the tax roll was gonna be 319, and with 50,000 in interest earnings, and that's not what came out, so I was confused.
No, I noticed that too. The 319 is what would go in the assessment, so the tax roll was actually lower.
Okay.
Because of the
we included
40,000.
So that,
Interest.
that was see, my notes were not right, and I admit that, but I just wanted to make sure. So it was, this is correct, it is 319.
Yeah,
Okay.
you should see the same with the general fund too.
If my notes were right on that one, on this one, I must have, I don't know, not
Inverted.
had
It's
enough
the same
coffee.
concept, once
I don't know.
we put in the interest and lowered the tax.
Perfect, okay, otherwise I have no questions.
Okay. So I'll respond to Ricardo and Julie and just letting them know, to be aware that if there's any additional changes, we have to have those changes prior to the time that we move forward with making copies for the actual meeting so that we don't have 50+ copies of proposed budgets that are not accurate.
Well, whatever your deadline is, tell them 2 days early.
Okay.
No, seriously.
Yeah.
You're right.
Any questions for me?
And so I looked at my notes and I think this is correct. The budget hearing, the final one for July will be the 22nd. It is the meeting on the 22nd.
Well, it's not July, it's August, because remember, you have a 60-day point from when it's sent to the city. So since you're having your meeting in June, last year was earlier because everybody was gonna be traveling. So our 60-day point, I have my actual budget schedule open because I have to schedule everything out in advance. So last year, we had the meeting earlier because we were expecting everybody traveling.
Right.
So our 60-day point, because we are actually having the meeting workshop date on the 10th.
Right.
So from there,
60 days from there.
it's 60 days from there, depending on the date that I expect to send it. So if I send it out on the 11th, we're fine to have our meeting, which is the first meeting of August, which is when the public hearings would need to be held. So that would be August 12th.
Okay.
So that's when we will hold our public hearings. Now, I did want to ask, we can talk about this after you approve the proposed budget. The board said that you still wanted to have a notice sent out to the residents regarding the changes in the budget because we're not required to send out a legal notice because it's showing that it's going down. Obviously, it's because of the assessment.
Right.
So we'll work on that after the next meeting so that we can prepare the notice, draft it, everybody can take a look at it, and then we can send it out via mail to all of the homeowners.
Fine.
Now, Ken, I saw your email and I wanted to talk about this with the entire board because I think there's a lot of misconceptions out there when it relates to the financial statements and what Rosetta is required to provide and what information Rosetta is required to include as part of its statements. We do not prepare the financial statements for the River Club. You have a separate managing entity that prepares financials and your contract provides for what Vesta is required to provide. Nowhere in either contract does it state that either Rosetta or Vesta are required to provide these financials in Excel formats. And I want to make sure that that's clear to everybody. I responded to an email that was sent to me requesting Rosetta's financial statement package in Excel. Rosetta has an accounting system, it's called Intact. We do not download the financials in Excel form. When they're created in a PDF form. So I want to clarify that. We've made a lot of changes to our statements to accommodate the requests that have come in, primarily from Ken, because I know you want things in a specific format. But we follow governmental accounting standards and principles. That's what we're required to provide. I want to make it clear because there's a lot of emails going back and forth. Rosetta's not doing what they're supposed to be doing for the district. I have been the district manager for this district for June will be 8 years. You have an independent auditor that conducts audits on an annual basis. At no point has an audit ever reflected on this district stating that Rosetta has not provided the financial statements in accordance with those standards and in accordance with Florida statutes. So I do want to put that on the record because it's really difficult when I see an email where somebody makes a statement as if we are not providing what we are contracted to provide, when in reality we are. Now, if the board wants something specific and you're not satisfied with the formats, then I can happily arrange for a call with our Vice President of Operations, which is Scott Brizendine, with one of the board members, which Ken, I would recommend that would be you, since I know that this is something that you're adamant about, or you, Cheryl, or anybody else, if you want to have a discussion with Scott, I'd be happy to do it. But to say that we are not providing the information as required, that is not accurate.
I didn't say that, did
No,
I?
I didn't say you did.
Okay.
But I want to make sure that everybody understands that. It's difficult to see sometimes. I don't really comment on some of the comments that we receive, especially when there are inaccuracies in statements. But I want to make sure that this is on record, because I don't think that that's a fair statement to the people who have worked extremely hard to provide this district the service that it desires. So I want to make sure that that's on record. Okay. But Ken, if you're open to having a call with Scott, I'd be happy to. I mean, you have communication with Vanessa, but at this point, I think if any of you want to reach out or speak about formatting, let me know, and I'd be happy to arrange a call. But everybody has direct communications.
I can live with the format. I've gotten used to it. It's fine. I don't have a problem with that, and I understand you do, 1/12 by month accounting, not seasonality. But I get the statements from Vesta that are in Excel, and their budget is seasonally based, so I'm fine with that.
Well, it's considered fund accounting, so it's very different.
I know,
I
but
know
most people don't know that.
they don't. So for example, when you look at a financial statement from, let's say, an HOA or a condo association, very different from government accounting.
Yeah.
So for those that are not used to the different accounting formats, it's an eye-opening experience. For me, it was an eye-opening experience when I first joined Rosetta, because my background was high-rise. So I'm coming from high-rise into government accounting, totally different.
Yeah.
So,
I tried to explain that.
I don't want anybody to think that I'm taking this into offense, but I do feel that I have to put that on record, because I'm pretty sure that there's a misconception out there, because sometimes people just send out emails to homeowners with inaccuracies. That is not the case. And I can refer to several board members or prior board members who have served on these boards, who we have worked with, who have never, ever, ever made a statement stating that we are not accurately presenting the financial stability of the district. That has never happened.
So just to take that one step further, we talked a little bit about this in the workshop, about Ken's response. And we are probably gonna put something, Ken has agreed to draft something that we can put in the VCDD newsletter about the financials and the accuracy of the financials. So we'll do it like a special edition in July or something.
Just a few things,
Well, that's not where I was
interesting enough,
focused, but I can.
you don't get to see the interactions between, if you might have a financial book. Ken reaches out directly to Vanessa whenever he has a question. Ken, do these financial statements represent accurately? That's the question I have for you, and I'd like for you to put that on record, because, there's that misconception that because the River Club reports one way and we report another, that our statements are not accurate.
I think they're consistent with government accounting,
Thank you.
which, again, if you're in business, it's a different accounting. And I think most residents who aren't familiar, and until I got on the board and got to appreciate, the differences, you say to yourself, well, why can't we do this? Why can't we do that? Now I understand why we can't. But at least what I get from Vesta, for example, satisfies my ability or need to have information that I can analyze on both a consistent basis and that represents where we are during the year, because there are big shifts in our revenues and expenses. So I don't rely on the Rosetta statements, because now I understand the differences. So, I've just gotten used to it, and I'm fine with it. But if you're not on the board, you don't understand that. I can see the frustration people might have,
Sure.
who don't understand
And if
and
any of the
don't
board
bother
members
to learn.
do have questions, if you have a question related to a specific statement, for example, when Vanessa sends out the statements, Ken, I think probably takes, if I time you, Ken, maybe like 2-3 hours before you get the statement and you might send a question, depending on your timeline. But you can send any questions to myself or Vanessa and we'll respond accordingly. If it's a question we cannot answer, then we would forward that question to Ricardo and or Dan so that they can assist answering whatever questions you have. Because, I don't go through the River Club financial statements and I cannot tell you that I could interpret those financial statements because I don't understand the food and beverage outlet portion of it. It is not something that I do. I've never managed a food and beverage operation, so that's not something that I would be able to provide you with guidance on. They're very different statements. When you look at one portion, it's completely the opposite, but it's because of the food and beverage operation. Any questions? Okay, now I did want to talk about the hurricane fund. It is on the agenda, but since we're already on the subject of funding, I did go back and talk to Vanessa as to whether or not we could complete the transfer of moving the funds into the reserve account and how we would track it. So we can do the same thing as what we currently do with the tracking. You've seen these, Ken, but I'm not sure the rest of the board has seen these. We send, ever so often, Jerry Jasper, he's the head of the reserve committee, he'll email Vanessa and ask her for the breakdown of the reserve expenditures. So she'll send him a schedule outlining these. So we would do the same thing for the hurricane fund. So Cheryl, show your huge sheets.
Yeah, I don't know if I can find it, I put it away.
So I can circulate this to the board. I wanted to send it to Cheryl first. I wanted just to be sure that this follows some specific format as to what we spent year to date from the hurricane fund. But I reconciled it with Vanessa, so this matches all of our expenditures year to date.
It didn't come out landscape, so I had to cut and paste this thing to read it.
Yeah, so I can, Vanessa did agree that she can create a similar schedule to what we have for the reserve expenditures for the hurricane fund once the funds are transferred.
Okay.
That being said, the funds are with Dana because we do have all of the general fund amounts with the exception of 2 months of expenditures with Dana Investments. So the board would need to authorize Rich to proceed and provide direction to Dana Investments to move the remaining funds for the hurricane fund into the reserve fund with Dana. I don't know, Rich, we'll probably have to jump on a call with Dana Investments to see how they would allocate this separately to show that it's a hurricane fund, but I don't think that should be an issue for them because it's pretty much a sub-account that they would create.
It'll just be another sub-account. They have 7 of them now.
That would make sense.
Okay.
We can do that.
So we would need a motion to direct the chairman to direct Dana Investments to move the remaining funds from the hurricane fund or hurricane assessment into the general fund reserve.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Before we do that, though, if there's further, are we putting the cart before the horse? Should we be having the assessment discussion first in case there's money to be spent that would otherwise be invested, or am I misunderstanding?
The money's already sitting in the Dana investment account because remember, the general fund funds are invested with the exception of 2 months of maintenance.
Okay.
So if you have an expenditure for the hurricane fund, regardless, it'll be paid out of the general fund, reimbursed back from
I
the
see,
reserve.
so money's fungible, okay, yeah.
So you can always move the
Okay.
funds when need be,
Fair
but
enough.
typically it's always paid from the general fund because that's really your checking account.
Yes,
And then
understood.
reimbursed back.
Got it, okay, understood, thank you.
Just an FYI, Jerry Jasper is no longer chair
Okay.
of that committee. It's Mark Middlebrook.
Middlebrook.
Jerry's still on.
He's still on.
Jerry's still on, he's not chair.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
And that's all I had. Any questions for me?
I thought you were gonna present the voter registration card.
Oh, that's right.
After the pledge.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, so we do have the presentation of the registered voter count. We are required every year to announce the number of registered voters residing within the district as of April 15, 2024. As of April 15, 2024, as per the Supervisor of Elections, there are 1,889 registered voters residing within the district.
Went down a lot.
I thought that was kind of high.
It was about 1950.
It was 1972.
1972, actually. Some people moved.
What, it was 1970?
It was over 1900. I thought it was 1950, but
Yeah,
1972.
yeah, I think that's the number. It's
Yeah.
weird to remember.
Dropped.
Yeah, it dropped almost 100. It's weird.
We now have item number 5A, which is the discussion and consideration of the person Cohen, Mooney, Fernandez, and Jackson hourly rate modification. This is behind tab number 4 for your review. We discussed this during our budget workshop. Andy's contract provides for a CPI increase, and that is what is being presented here.
I'll make a motion that we accept the increase as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion?
It's consistent with the budget.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it's worth it, but it's consistent with the budget.
All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Thank you. You're welcome. You're brave when Andy's not here.
Yeah.
So, item number 5B, we're tabling.
Yeah, actually, I would say one thing. We do not have the Hazeltine Nurseries proposal. We do have another proposal that is completely not apples to apples. So it's not really something we can evaluate. In lieu of this, I would say that we are going to go forward based on our workshop discussion and get a landscape architect. And they will be involved in determining what needs to happen on Siltadella before we get then competing bids.
And other areas.
In other
besides.
areas, but this one,
Yes.
Is it a new landscaping architect or the landscape architect that the district previously worked with?
who was that?
I can get you the name of that.
I haven't.
Sounds like you wanted.
So that was the one that did the third island?
Yes.
We're gonna vote them off the island. Can we kill the magnolias?
Leave the magnolias alone.
Leave them alone.
That was. I just had, I just had his contract. I can. Completely forgot. It's a long name. Because, I do recall that he had a lot of recommendations, previously that the landscaping committee did not, recommend.
Okay. So do you want to just send that to me?
I can.
Belinda?
I
That'd
can
be
send it
great.
to
And
you.
then we have a couple others that we'll entertain. If we do not select that person, is there something specific we need to do differently?
You would still need to bring it before the board for
Right.
approval. Obviously, if you re-engage the prior landscape architect, it would be something new as well, because he was only engaged for whatever prior projects there were.
Okay. All right, yeah, if you would send that to me, that would be wonderful. All right, so that's how we will move forward, so this particular item can get voted.
Okay.
You get multiple.
Yes.
No, that's the landscape.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, it was Stuart Washmuth Solars. And it was Ryan Solars,
Rushmouth
Ryan
Solars.
Solars,
Ryan Solars. Okay.
941
Mm-hmm.
377
Mm-hmm.
4704.
Okay, thank you.
The next item on the agenda is item number 5C, which is the consideration of proposals from ACI to clear wetlands of invasive Brazilian pepper trees. This is for your review.
The total on this one is $30,750, and that has been checked by Ken. So, this
That's
is.
what I got too.
Yeah, this is
We all
the,
came up with the same number?
yeah, this is the guy that, did the, removal of the pepper trees off Pizarro in that pond, and we've got nothing but thank yous from that community about
That's so
how
much
clean
better.
it looks, and yes, so Keith went out and asked him to review and bid on all of it. This is much less, by the way, than I anticipated.
Way less.
I thought it was gonna be huge, and so, Keith, do you have anything to add?
Well, we're coming into the rainy season, so it's going to be, pray for rain. And it's gonna be hard for him to get into a lot of those areas and do that just because of the size of the equipment that he has. So if we're gonna do it, we need to move and get a lot of I'll handpick what I think is the worst areas to get done and have him just, Ken and I have a couple concerns that he might have overdid it a little bit in that area. It might have killed some of the other vegetation that's there. So what I'm really gonna have him do is just, if there's a dead pepper tree right there, go in and take it out and take it just kind of, other than the way he did on the other one, so.
And he knows that in these bids? Okay.
Did you get a chance to go back and look at that?
No, I haven't, no.
And there's more stuff dying.
Okay.
So he just clear cut. Unfortunately damaged some healthy stuff that's now dying. So my concern is, initially, it looked like he did a great job.
Yeah, the pictures that we got initially were
It looked
great.
like, boy, what a difference.
Yep,
And now, how many weeks later?
Yeah.
Stuff is dying that was healthy.
Is
So I
it
think
because
he
it was
nipped-
ripped down or chemical?
No, it doesn't use chemicals.
It's
Yeah,
not-
it was
He's
like a
got
brush
the-
hog.
he's got the
It's like a
machine.
big brush hog,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
they just
yeah.
chops everything and
Mulches it.
it's very loud, but that's beside the point. Yeah, it mulches it while it's going along, but he's hitting everything in sight. So
Yeah.
he nicked a lot of healthy stuff that's now dying.
So he has to
So
be,
I just raised a concern about, and this was a pretty wide open preserve. If you're going in to cherry pick, Brazilian peppers and other dead stuff, you can't just clear cut it.
Right.
That's
And
my
would
only
that stuff
concern.
not have died anyway? I'm asking because I live on a little preserve, stuff's dying in there all the time, and nobody messes.
Well, we're not gonna actually be going into the preserve.
Right. You're just
Okay.
on the edges.
It's just right on the edges. Yeah, so if it's way into the preserve, not gonna go in there.
so was the plan to do all of them? Or was the plan to get a bid on all of them and then to create a priority list?
I can do it either way, just do them all, do the priorities first and then, but I want to get so many of them done prior to rainy season because once that hits, we're pretty much 6 months of.
Well, it's a constant issue with the community. And I guess if we're gonna do it, we should do it right.
What I was hoping we would do is approve
Prove it.
this and then let Keith prioritize and work with the guy to get the biggest areas first and then work through when rainy season's over.
Good idea.
And that way, hopefully, we can get him also to lock in this pricing if we approve it this way.
Yeah,
And
good
then-
idea.
Contract wise, just from logistics, I talked to Mr. Cohen about it as well. We're gonna have basically one, instead of each individual contracts, we're gonna use one
One contract for the whole.
for all these,
The whole
maybe
thing.
include all of these.
Right.
Just
Okay.
otherwise, it's going to be time consuming to
Right.
get through all of these, but it's gonna reference all of them, so we'll have all the individual estimates for.
I have a
You wanna make a
comment,
motion that,
Supervisors, just for your consideration. I have one district where I conduct one annual trimming a year. It's not cheap, but there's a trimming conducted of anything that is outside of the scope for exotics, it's done. And it even includes whatever we are allowed to do on the native side, because in some areas, if natives are encroaching, we're allowed to do certain things. and it's done once a year. And then you have to modify, obviously this would require some sort of a modification to your existing agreement for maintenance, because if it's being mulched, I'm pretty sure it's gonna grow back with time. So you want to have Solitude review these areas after the fact to make sure that they're treating these areas so that this doesn't come back. But you may wanna consider in the future having all of the wetlands, all of the preserve areas reviewed, and maybe bidding out to have one native, one exotic trimming event per year, where you push back, do whatever you need to do, and then have the ongoing maintenance, so a few years down the road, this doesn't happen again. If you're taking the initiative to eliminate the exotics. It's something to consider.
So we would, since we're doing the exotics, we could actually consider that to do the natives maybe on the next round? Is that what you're
Correct.
saying?
You can.
Okay. We can certainly look at that.
Yeah.
Okay. So I would make a motion that we accept the proposals as provided in the minutes, and that after acceptance, that Keith work to prioritize the areas and work with the company, and then it's with a contract from legal counsel.
Where are we gonna pay this from? Capital,
I don't think it's capital.
It's not capital.
or pay it from the general fund?
It's an operating expense.
It's an operating expense.
Can we pay it from the hurricane?
Okay, not a 5-year life.
Yeah, exactly. I don't,
Is it justifiable to take it out of the hurricane?
Is there a second? Because I have a
Wait.
couple more
oh,
questions.
yeah, can somebody second?
I'll second.
So, yeah, can we, if we take this out of operating, can we take it out of hurricane? Or no? Sorry. 30,000.
Well, is this strictly cutting Brazilian peppers, or is he also cutting other dead stuff?
Other dead
So
stuff,
he's cleaning up the preserves.
correct.
Okay, well, that,
Sounds good.
that,
And so some of those are hurricane,
without a doubt.
So we could take this out of, I mean, I guess it's a board decision if we take it out of the assessment.
I would think we should take it out of the assessment, because there is a lot of debris that's still
I
left in
think
there.
residents
That's
be
correct.
thrilled with, no, residents be thrilled with cleaning up preserves. Everybody's looking out at dead stuff.
Okay,
So should I amend my motion then to indicate that this comes out of the hurricane assessment?
Do you have to indicate?
I think for purposes of me,
Okay.
My only other question, and it's probably rhetorical, but I mean, this is all the areas that we know of that have this, right? So we don't get, so-and-so saying, but you forgot about my preserve.
that is all of the reserves. I mean, we have 21 of them, and those are not necessarily all right there, because some of them don't have,
I see,
dead stuff in it and
right,
different things, so.
No housing around it.
okay. Do the preserve numbers correspond to the lake numbers?
No.
They're completely different, okay, thanks.
There's no
that would be too.
just to confuse you.
I have a, Jill, are you okay that we're not getting multiple quotes on this? I just want to make sure we're okay with that,
Well,
because I know your position.
yeah, well, I don't know, I think time is of the essence. My sense from talking to Keith was that the piece of equipment this guy had was something of an oddball piece of equipment that isn't.
Well, you remember now that I had 3 bids for
That's
the
what I was just
property
gonna
that we
say.
did.
Right.
Yeah, we
Okay.
had 3 bids the first
And
time.
he
This
was-
the
It
best.
was well below.
Well below everybody else's, or not LP, but Solitude was like 11,000.
Oh,
The
okay.
one,
It was thousands.
another guy I had out, his was a couple $1,000s.
This was
Okay,
about-
I'd forgotten that, because I have to
In fact-
say, I was shocked at how cheap these
And
were.
this guy's
We
been,
talked about trying him out on that
I
one to
just-
see if it
But now that you
was
say that, I
worthwhile.
remember that.
Yeah, so
No,
this was kind of, yeah.
Well, fair enough, I think time is
Okay,
of
I
the
just want it
essence.
on the record that we're not gonna go out and get multiple bids.
No. Well,
Because it'll be in the next letter from some people going out to residents.
Moving forward.
Get multiple bids.
Are there any other questions? Okay, can we call it?
All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
We now have item number 5D, which is a consideration of proposals for the replacement oak trees on Pissarro Drive. These are behind tab number 7 for your review.
So on this particular one, Landscape Committee looked at exactly where the trees came down on that pond on Pissarro, and all of them came down, must have been the wind pattern. And so this is to do a one-for-one replacement of the oak trees in that area. And on these two bids, LMP came out lower than Hazeltine.
And that Hazeltine guy is the same one that wrote that bid that came out, that I still haven't got their bid from on Citadel.
Right.
One of the things I liked about the Hazeltine though is that they're talking about using some amending soil, which LMP is not.
Yeah, we're noticing.
And it looks to me like more mulch.
Yeah, compost.
Yeah, so, and thirdly, I think we probably should try somebody else. Just to see. Just my view.
What were the size of the oaks? What was the size?
250 rolls.
What was the size?
30
Is that what
gallon.
the church tree,
30
10 years
gallon.
old?
30 gallon. Well, yeah, you're not gonna get the other trees.
No, of course not.
Yeah, it's not.
Is that big enough? I mean, is that gonna provide
Because that's barren land.
shade?
It's barren,
Yeah.
It's what?
Barren land.
barren, nothing there. And it's near Citadel.
It's the pond, it's.
That's the only shade for anybody walking that.
These are small, these will be about the size of the Shady Ladies to start with, right?
They're 30 gallons, they're
30
pretty
gallons.
good size.
And the Shady Ladies were 30 gallons.
Oh, yeah? Oh.
Yeah, so Shady Ladies are in the center, coming up to the River Club, those little trees. See, they're small. But the only other thing we could do there is do a B&B, which is gonna be a little bit bigger, but a lot more cost. Those burlap
Yeah.
trees are a lot more expensive. And so that is the option.
It's the gateway.
Do you want to find out how much that would be?
Can't hurt.
Do you want
I
to do
can
it,
find out.
You know, the other option is,
do
you
it not
know,
to exceed and pick a number? Because we're at 26 as a high now, 4,500?
That wouldn't cover anything at the, I mean, these B&B magnolias are what, about 3,700 a piece?
yeah,
Those are 3,300.
they're expensive. And when you go to like a burlap, because they're
These-
so much bigger.
But
They're not gonna be
We're
magnolias.
talking about live oaks, which
Right.
are relatively inexpensive trees.
Right.
That's why I'm picking a number.
Oh, well, not to exceed.
How quickly?
And not to exceed at 5,000? And sound reasonable or not?
5,000 each?
No, 5,000 total.
Total. So live oaks, we're not talking about exotic trees.
There's nothing.
Or
I have
Joe
no
wants to
idea.
give us a magnolia.
Absolutely, you can have my
I
magnolia.
don't know what a burlap oak would cost. Do you have any idea?
No idea, I can find out.
Where are our LMP guys?
Well, we told them they could leave since they were here for hours. I know, now that we need, I don't think they could price it off the top of their heads anyway.
Bill might be able to.
So what do you want to do with this? Do you want
How
to
tall is a 30 gallon?
see if we can get a larger tree to put in there?
Can you give him a call, Keith, while we go into another
Yeah.
agenda
Oh,
item?
okay. All right, why don't we do that?
So why don't we just jump into another agenda
Fine.
item while he calls Bill, so that we don't leave this open?
Racket sports,
We're gonna move into the acceptance of a resignation from the Racket Sports Advisory Committee. Supervisor Booker.
Okay, Sandy Nick she's submitting her resignation due to personal reasons. She was pivotal in the development of pickleball here at the Venetian and the success that it has had. It is not my intent to replace her. The committee will now consist of 5 members as it originally was. That was the original intent.
We had discussed that
Yes.
some months ago about reducing that committee from 7 to 5.
To 5, and
By attrition, so this,
so this complies
okay,
with my desire.
that
It'll
works.
be at 6 then?
Just text me.
5.
It'll be 5
Oh, you'll be
now.
down to 5, I see, okay, got it.
Thanks.
Okay, so,
We
What
just
do we
need a
have? Need a
motion to
motion to
accept
accept it?
Sandy's
You want to accept?
resignation.
I'll make a motion that we accept the resignation.
Reluctantly, I'll accept that. You did a wonderful job, especially with
Yes,
pickleball. Attended the city council meetings and was a strong supporter. Hate to see her go.
Let's make her stay.
Yeah, you can do that.
Any other comment?
Bill's gonna text me back a number for a more substantial
Tree,
tree.
any other comment? Can we call it?
We have to approve resignations? I'm just asking.
Accept,
Accept.
Accept, I mean.
So we accept?
All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
This is the first time I've seen it.
Yeah.
I've never seen it before. If we don't accept it, what happens?
We force her to stay.
Nobody will ever sign up for another committee. That's what happens.
She did a great job.
Yeah, great.
All right.
Too
Now,
bad we don't go better.
the discussion regarding hurricane recovery plans and assessment spending.
We don't know. who-
Ken, you added this to the
Did I?
agenda? Yes, you did.
Well done,
I
Ken.
added the next one.
You said this one, but
Oh. I want to recuse myself.
You wanted to.
We were
I
trying to
think we
figure
can,
that
I
out.
think we've covered it.
Okay.
Can we be crystal clear though on what we agreed to?
On what?
Well, I
Sorry.
mean, we're looking for a landscape architect then, is that right?
Yes. And until then, I will continue to update the spreadsheet with the spending that we've done to date.
Okay.
And actually, Belinda's large piece of paper will help me reconcile that, so.
And I'm gonna get in touch with Dana and have the hurricane fund monies moved to the general fund.
Yes.
So when you talk to the landscape architect, just so I'm clear, because there were a couple questions I didn't ask because I thought, I knew that we'd be discussing it. Is it for all the remaining areas that we've talked about, or are there some areas that specifically, or you just want to talk to them and then we'll talk about it at the next meeting?
We will get bids from a landscape architect on many different areas, but nothing, because I think what we need to do is first evaluate their work and then come with a proposal for who we're gonna use.
Okay.
And then we will go through, and it'll start with Medici Terrace and Laurel Road. I mean, those are clearly, we gotta get those done.
Yeah,
Big
okay.
areas, right.
Okay, that's helpful.
Do they generally work on a retainer or they work on a, by the job or
The only
Any
one
idea?
I've ever worked on on an hourly
hourly?
basis, but I don't know. Keith, if you,
Okay.
That gentleman there, Ryan, I think it was per job, I think is what he was, or no, was it the $15,000 for a year? Was that his contract?
there had to be an hourly cap on that though, because they wouldn't. You know what I mean? Or a job cap. But I think that'll be a critical when we go out and talk to these companies, how they're gonna price it is gonna be
Right.
critical. Yeah,
Because,
Okay.
yeah,
could get crazy, yeah.
Okay, so we have to G,
okay.
gate access.
That's me.
that's again, discussion
Okay.
regarding gate access and traffic control.
So I'll try to keep it brief because I'm not asking for action today, but although I like opinions on a couple of things. So Keith and I have been working with Ruth Cordner and David Moy, POA, on their push for traffic control. So replacing the traffic cop, doing something to do more of speed and stop sign control. We visited a community in Naples that use the ISN, which is a traffic cop for all the gate access and traffic control. Very nifty. It's a great system, no question about it. It's expensive. They have a full-time staff member, director of security, I forget what his title was, traffic or something, and also a 2-day part-time assistant to manage all of the traffic control violations and all that. Their current,
Their CDD.
they're part of CDD, they're part of their community of CDD and part is HOA. It was kind of a mixture. There are multiple communities. I think through the first year or less, they've issued and collected over $31,000 in fines, mostly $100 fines. The system itself is, like I say, is expensive. The other option we're looking at is Universal Access, who is our current vendor for gate access, in concert with Traffic Logics, which is a Traffic Hawk type, camera system. So it's another type of system that does the same kinds of things. In both cases, we're looking at one-time costs of anywhere from $50,000 to $70,000, and ongoing costs anywhere from $20,000 to $30,000.
Whatever happened to no more than a cup of coffee? If I remember Mr. Moore's
Oh, it was
comment.
pennies.
A cup of coffee.
What did he say? It was so many pennies or something like that?
A day.
It's a lot of pennies a day.
It's a lot of pennies a day.
It is. It's actually more than pennies a
It's
day.
even more than Starbucks.
So my question, so we've got a couple of options. They're both doable. They're both relatively expensive. I guess I want to come to the board and say, one of the things that I still don't appreciate, and Keith, if you appreciate it better, please speak out. I don't know how bad a problem we have that we're trying to fix. I know we get complaints from residents who say people are speeding, oh, I almost got run over when I was out jogging, I was trying to cross the road, and, an 18-wheeler came roaring through. I know we get those, but we get comments and critique and criticisms about a lot of things. It doesn't mean it's pervasive. Now, I think all of us have seen cars going probably faster than they should. We've probably all seen cars kind of cruise through stop signs. They don't come to a complete stop. But, most of our stop signs have visibility, so you can kind of see if anybody's coming and you kind of roll through. So, again, I'm trying to be responsive to the issue of the traffic hawk. I think we need to do something with our gate control, and we're looking at doing that anyway because we've got 3 disparate systems that we're trying to consolidate into one. That's much less expensive, like $14,000, $15,000. So I'd like to hear from some of you as to how aggressive we want to pursue this. The POA is on record of saying they don't expect to pay for any of this. They expect us to pay for it and them to manage the traffic control piece of it and do the violating and collecting. So I don't know how you guys feel.
How big was the community you visited? What did you say?
It was about this size.
1,400.
It was about this size.
1,400 homes.
And they've collected 31,000?
Yeah. Crazy.
Well, that's aggressive.
But they have some main roads. It's a much more spread out community. And they had a couple of main drags that go through and then communities off of it. It's not set up like ours per se, but.
They have a golf course and.
Yeah, at least one.
Well, you talked about, just because there's 2 issues, right? As you said, there's gate control and there's the traffic
Right.
issue. And I think we probably all agree that we have some work to do on the access, knowing who's in here, that sort of thing. I know we can't turn anybody away. But personally, I'd rather see us allow the Venice Police Department to come in here, at will. I think that's going to do a much better job of deterrence than paying XYZ. I know we kind of let that sort of fall by the wayside, but personally,
Well, we didn't let it fall through the wayside. We
I'm the
discussed
one.
it.
We did, but then
There's
we
pros
kind of
and
didn't do
cons.
anything with it, and there are pros and cons, I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you go.
No, and I had mentioned that before, I'm supportive of the police department, we're paying a certain amount of taxes. And we get probably very little, in return for what we pay, contribute to this community. They just, hey, bring it in, give us your money.
Okay.
And then there's always the argument, well, our kids drive the golf carts,
Yes.
we don't want to worry about that.
Well, not just driving them, but they have to be street legal.
Yeah, well, and
Not well, they have to be licensed, you have to have directional signals, you have to.
we have public roads here,
Maybe
and they
should be
should,
anyway.
maybe we should comply with the law.
I'm just
But I'm from that.
throwing that out.
And-
You've
and-
got a lot of residents here who own golf carts, who enjoy using them for transport, not just golf, I shouldn't say golf carts, they're transports.
Okay.
Um,
But
who would, I think would not be in favor of that.
in abiding.
And we
law,
know the police
complying with the
department
law.
doesn't want to come in here. They're on record of telling us they don't really want to come in here. They don't have the staffing for it. And they've advised us that if they come in here, they're gonna have to
That sounds
follow
like.
all the laws, not just speeding and stuff.
Yeah,
We
that's all
agree,
right.
we agree. I have no problem.
But-
You know, that's a decision to be made by the business manager for the city. But, they should comply. We have 3 streets that, this speeding occurred. I used to sit on that committee that's enforcement, and I helped draft that when Dave and I, at the beginning. And, you know, Pizarro, Benito, and Padova.
Yeah.
There are
Dope's
problems,
bad.
those are our problems. We put in the speed bumps, and, they seem to do little. And we we could save some money. We're not in the business of making money from violators and charging our residents, money like the people in Naples. I would be more so, happy with the police being in there. Again, Jill and I are on the same side, I guess.
The Jersey.
Jersey people.
That explains a lot.
Yeah.
It does. Well, I grew up in Vermont, does that help?
Well, you know, one of the options actually has an optional remote service to do all of the data entry and management of it. That, in talking to Keith, may allow us to reduce some staff here that would actually pay for itself. So their ongoing annual fee would be more than covered by cost reductions here.
Can you
So,
explain
yeah,
that?
yeah.
What do you mean, explain that?
Right now, I think you and your staff would have to and do manage all data entry, changes, updates.
I see,
Um,
I see.
There's Keith, again, tell me if I'm off. the
So
mark.
what the program we're looking at is with Universal Access, which is our Paul Savage and through his system. There's the gate access control, and then there's the speed control. So look, we're gonna put the speed control over here. All right, we're just gonna look at the gate access. So we're gonna bring all 3, we're gonna bring the gate access, okay, the river clubs, access all together, and the RFID sticker, okay? And so a paper will go out, form will go out to every resident. They fill it out. All the different questions that we want to have, emails, phone numbers, addresses, cars with their license plates numbers on it. And that gets sent to Paul, all right? He has, and they all put it in the data system, okay? And nothing, when a new resident comes in and it's all address driven. So when somebody else comes in and they say, 105 Portofino, no, different person there, kicks them out, puts a new person in, okay? And that person, and then they still have to come here and get a sticker. All right, and so when we do that, we've given them a sticker, we fill out that, we have them fill out that form, and we send it up to Paul, okay? They administrate, put it in the system for, the River Club access. We don't have to hand out new stickers, because the stickers are already there, all right? What it'll do, it'll start wiping those out once he starts putting in the new, now you can.
Well, if it's a new resident, you'd have to issue a new sticker.
But you can, residents, if they have a question about how to use it, they call them, all right? And they walk them through how to use their phone, walk them how to do this. Of course, we'll have to know it as well, and we'll get the questions here too. But in the paper, if you have questions about your app, send somebody, an access code, the gate just, hits it and they come on in.
So it's a man-hour savings here.
Yes.
So, that can, I thought was a very good feature, to have.
So, but what you were thinking is we could reduce staff.
Well, if that was, yeah, I mean, if you were, at all reducing staff, there again, it's all on the level of, service that you want. Okay, if I'm not here, my assistant is, and so the what?
No, I'm saying we have a receptionist, so. I mean, is it possible for example, for you to transfer?
Well,
your phone?
that's,
I mean,
no, we don't transfer phones, and we, two different entities. I mean, we are taking their access control, but, I know you're a fan of getting rid of Leanne.
no,
But-
it's not, it isn't, Keith, it isn't that. I consider it my fiduciary responsibility to look for ways in which, we can efficiently use the residents' money. It's not a personal thing. It's a
Oh,
fiduciary responsibility.
I wasn't saying it's a personal thing, right? But I know that's what you're wanting to do to go along with your responsibility of spending the residents' money, okay? I understand that. And that's why I brought it up to Ken and said, this could be, if this is where we're wanting to do, this is an avenue, okay? But there again, when I'm not here or we're not here, people get angry. They're, well, you're not here. So, my time, I'm up here, where are you at? So what, depends on what type of you want.
So I can't imagine that this isn't without a cost, because
Oh, it's a cost.
It sounds similar to Envera. So Envera, for example, handles all of the programming for their accounts. So I mean,
I think it was like $1,400 a month.
there's probably a cost associated with it, but at the
There
same
is.
time, I mean, I don't.
It's $17,000 a year.
Are these the only two systems that you've explored, or have there been others?
I looked at, well, for the complete solution, these are the two that we narrowed down to. For gate access only, I looked at Emera, and in fact, I talked to the woman who runs Town Preserve, because they use that. I've also done some online checking, and I think I mentioned to you or somebody that there's several negative reviews out there on them, but that could be another option for just gate control. I was trying to find a holistic solution to the gate control that's integrated with traffic control, because you want it integrated.
Sure. I mean, I would prefer a holistic, integrated solution, so we don't continue to have these problems, so. Are there other
Well-
systems you can look at?
I'm not aware of others that do the traffic control piece of it. That's not to say there
Right,
are.
I mean, you can add that later. That's not something that you have to get when we do this program. You can add that 6 months, a year down the road.
Well, but then you tie to one vendor at that point.
So the piece you talked about that is 17,000 a year, is that an integrated tagging and gate control system, or is that also traffic?
That's the remote services, just for gate control.
So no
For
traffic.
data management.
Mhm.
Well, it's traffic control because you've got the same database, but you don't have the hardware for traffic control,
Okay.
just doing that. No, I had a thought, but I'm not sure after hearing Mark earlier, and I was at that community association meeting, so it's probably right. But I actually thought about, since we can't, if the community association is willing to give us $37,000, if we're not limited to using it, if we're allowed to use it for what we deem as the best interest of the residents here, and we're not restricted to use it only for landscaping, that would fund the hardware side of this. And so the POA gets the benefit, residents get the benefit, we get the benefit. Community association money is used for the betterment of everybody. It was an option, but I don't know if the resolution that they passed would restrict us to use it only for landscaping.
I'm not so sure.
That might
Got
be
tons
Tom Jones'
of,
question.
I'm sorry?
That might be a question for Tom. the next
Yeah.
meeting.
And he's gonna be here at the next meeting. I've gotten tons of information from him, from Jerry Jasper, all kinds of stuff to try to make heads or tails of this. Right now, my knee-jerk reaction is it's beautification and buffering in the
Yeah, I
community,
think you're right.
not necessarily security.
That would be unfortunate because it benefits the POA and they're the ones who think they should have the money, so this would actually solve everything.
No, I hear what you're saying, but
Just saying,
my gut says we can't do that.
maybe we'll change the resolution.
Maybe. All right, well,
So anyway,
we're not
I'm
gonna,
trying to, I've got to sit down with the rest of the team to go over this
Right.
and get people's reaction. What I wanted to hear from you guys was, are we crazy to be pursuing options that are this expensive? Are we trying to solve a problem that is not as big a problem as we might think it is? Or just trying to get some direction before we spend a lot more time and money?
one of the questions that we never really got a satisfactory answer to is, has the POA actively pursued violators? Not just traffic, but,
Well, we know they haven't.
No, they haven't collected any money.
so to now come up with something that has a lot of potential and all kinds of bells and whistles and a heavy price tag, is it going to make things better?
So just food for thought, supervisors, because I do have a district that does engage FHP for traffic control after hours. They were doing it with the Manatee County Sheriff's Office, and there really wasn't much success with the Sheriff's Office, so they switched over to the Florida Highway Patrol. But I'll let you know how much this district has spent year to date on just this expenditure, so that you have some sort of an idea.
When we had the highway patrol here, along with Sarasota County and Venice Police, they all put in bids to have an officer on site. And we were paying for the officer as well as the vehicle. It was expensive. I remember, it was something like $800 and something a day. That
There's a
was,
4-hour minimum.
yes.
So, this one district, just on Florida Highway Patrol, year to date has $18,170.
How much?
$18,170.
So 40 grand.
6 months, year to date. That's FHP. So, Manatee County Sheriff's Office, I know for a fact that they also do the 4-hour minimum. So just
That
food for thought.
Yeah, that's an officer that's exclusively here for those 4 hours.
Yes,
I
but they won't only ticket vehicles for speeding. They will, any violation that
Any
they
violation.
see, they will address.
Any violation.
Riding your bike on the wrong side.
Or issues with other stuff.
I'm not so sure
Minor
about,
driving,
I'm not so sure about the golf,
Yeah.
the golf cart issue. I thought, well, this is another question for Andy. I thought that, over a certain speed, there was requirements for registration and whatever, but, under that, there wasn't a requirement for registration.
No, none of the golf carts have.
on
Unless
city
you're
streets.
gonna be on, if you're gonna be on a city
The golf
street, you have
course-
to.
the golf
it's-
course, I think
it's-
so.
Yeah.
They're a personal one.
Oh, yeah, you mean the ones at
The ones owned by Heritage.
Oh,
are
no,
not
they
street
don't,
legal.
because those golf carts.
They don't go fast enough.
Well,
No.
first of all, they're not supposed to be,
I know, I can't keep
they're
up.
not even supposed to be in the parking lot. The golf course owned golf carts
Right, I'll remember that.
are not even to be used. That's why I was surprised the letter that
I'm
came
gonna
out from
forget
Jay
that.
yesterday said something about, if you need to take it home, tell me about it.
I know.
They clearly said they didn't want the carts in the parking lot.
Right.
They want to back in the barn,
Right,
get your clubs and go. And the only time they're on the street is when they cross from one
Right.
section of the course to the other.
right.
The difference, it's golf carts and they're called, low-speed vehicles, LSVs.
Okay.
And the difference is essentially low-speed vehicles are souped-up golf carts that they can be put on the streets. And there are different rules and regulations about where they can be, what time, and quite frankly, whether or not you can even allow them on your streets, especially golf carts versus LSVs. The other side to that is, I believe it's in October, there's going to be the new driver requirements that come into play. So kids driving, those are the main differences. But
We should go up.
I mean, yeah, so if you invited in, if ultimately you signed a contract with, because I've dealt with this in other districts. And yeah, ultimately, if you signed a contract with anybody, they would, if they see golf cart violations, be it SMA, whatever it is, they'll sign up for that. People are great with that. You should be doing that anyway. Other people, other residents may not want to open that can of worms. That is something, but I have seen it both ways where with traffic cons, they have, they hire out the local police departments, usually the sheriff's office, or as what is it, FHP 4, usually 4. Everyone I see is probably going to put a dedicated deputy or officer somewhere. It's probably going to be about a 4-hour block.
Yeah. Because in general, it's probably a day off kind of thing, and somebody's.
Yeah, and then they got to bring them out. They're getting paid. So yeah, it's.
So no, I understand that part.
And it's not every day, it's random.
Usually it's a random process because they don't want people just expecting.
Right.
It's not a month. It's a Monday, so that means I can speed.
Right.
Well, realize that, they're building a couple of thousand units down the street here. We're gonna have other issues. And we'll be probably revisiting that and the need for
Well, yeah,
law enforcement in this community. So,
the homeless guy in the back of the
Okay.
wall.
Can we make a suggestion that I would personally like to see the whole integrated piece with the tags and the RFIDs and everything else be one piece and the traffic be separate, because I don't think we're gonna if we wanna do the traffic and that together, this will never make a decision. But I think if we can look at the integrated piece,
Right.
the IDs, I would really like to see that
I
separately.
have that. I have all that.
That we could entertain, I think,
Okay.
more quickly than.
That's
traffic.
fine, just looking for a guide.
Okay.
Good work.
Thank
we
you.
agree.
Keith, were you able to reach Bill?
I was, and he got back with me and said, Oaks, 3-inch caliper, 12 to 14 feet, $1,100 installed each.
Installed. So 5,500.
So 5,500 not to exceed was a reasonable number.
And I'll get with Hazeltine to
I
get
was
another.
gonna say, do you wanna do a not to exceed
Can we
5,500?
do that?
We just make it 6 or whatever, but.
And then we'll still get 2 bids.
Yeah.
Fine.
So-
Let's go with
They're
$6,000.
Good.
Let's go with, I'll make a motion that we,
6,000.
agree to a not to exceed amount of $6,000 for,
D&D.
It's 5 trees.
There were 7.
No,
installing.
it's 5.
It's
installing-
I understand that the
Suzanne,
committee-
sorry.
Excuse me. Install 5
That's what the committee
Light
recommended in
bulbs
that area was to put
recommended
5
by-
back in there.
I was at the meeting and they said 7.
Yeah. Do we know how many came down?
5, and that's what landscape committee talked about.
No, I was at the meeting and they said 7.
Suzanne, I'm sorry, we're
Okay.
recording this
I was
meeting.
at the meeting.
Yeah.
It's 5.
5 is the number.
That's why we got the bids for 5. So
Is there a
Oh, that
second?
coincides with them.
Is that just one side or both sides?
it's only one side because the other side is power line.
Yeah, I know.
Doesn't mean we can't do more, but it was 5 that the landscape.
Was the one in the corner of Pissarro and Silverdale?
It's
There's a big patch there now.
it's not on that side, it's on the pond side. These are just the
I
trees
know,
that,
I know
yeah,
it's on the pond side, but I was wondering if the whole area was,
possibly, but we only talked about the pond side. So right now, this is for the pond side. It doesn't mean we aren't gonna go back and do more because we're still, the next thing the landscape committee is looking at is where all the trees came down, so we can start that process.
So for right now,
For right now, it's 5.
for right now, it's 5, and I'll propose a not to exceed amount of $6,000.
Was there a second?
Second,
Any further discussion?
So just clarifying that, we'll go back to Hazeltine.
Yes, ma'am, I just wrote a note to myself to go.
Okay, great, okay.
And these are all hurricane related as well,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
yes.
So the money would come from the hurricane fund. Okay, so we have a second. Any other questions?
All
Okay.
those in favor, please
Call.
say
Aye. Okay,
We now have the item number 6A, which is the consideration of the minutes of the Board of Supervisors meeting held on April 8th, 2024. These are behind tab number 8 for your review. Are there any questions, comments, and/or changes to the minutes as presented?
I have no additional changes.
There are no questions, comments, and/or changes. We'd be looking for a motion to approve.
Motion.
second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We now have item number 6B, which is the ratification of the operations and maintenance expenditures for the month of March 2024. These are behind tab number 9 for your review. The expenditures for the period of March 1st through 31st totals $277,074.04. Any questions?
I had one, I should have sent you a note on it. There's $7,100 paid to Coastal Concrete Products for hurricane damage. Could you just refresh my memory?
That's
what
the
that was?
fence. Remember the fence that's on
No, that's for coastal concrete. That was for repair of the
the wall?
wall, the Othello wall.
Thank you, that's all I couldn't think of the word.
Any other questions?
If there are no questions, we've been looking for a motion to ratify.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Any questions?
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We now have item number 7A, which is the acceptance of the advisory committee meeting minutes, which are behind tab number 10. We have fitness and pool advisory committee minutes of March 20th and social and dining of March 13th.
I'll make a motion to accept.
Second.
Any further discussion?
I had a couple of issues on social and dining, but I can talk to Teresa, something about them.
About the minutes?
Well, actually, the minutes are probably correct.
Oh, you just have an issue.
Kind of.
Okay.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Supervisor requests or comments? Are there any supervisor requests or comments?
I just had one or two quick things, just information for the other side, maybe a question for Cheryl. So the facilities committee is looking at a bunch of things, and one of those things is lighting both out at the Tiki Bar, and working together with River Club management to do that. But, front of the club, we're looking at as well as walkways. But I wanted to make sure,
Low voltage lighting?
yes, oh yes, is landscape looking at that? I didn't wanna do double duty here.
We were looking at low voltage lighting, we did some in the front, but we have not done anything with this
Like the-
area.
like
So
this-
if you wanna do it, we will
Okay.
stand down on that, then you can do this whole area, which is fine. Stop it, you're just voting today.
The other thing is really for Ken related to the reserve study that we had talked to Miles about getting some estimates for locker room renovations. I know that that's now been pushed back to 2026, but it depends on what it is we do. So we're doing some additional digging because the first set of numbers that came in were absolutely eye-watering. So it wouldn't fit within the budget. So just want you to know we're looking into that.
And that's fine. The only reason it got pushed is we went and looked at the men's locker room.
Yeah.
Um,
Need a woman on the reserve committee, and we could.
we do need a,
You could have somebody identify as a woman. Sorry. Never mind.
okay. The feeling was, it didn't seem like anything needed to be done like right away. And Miles felt what was there was pretty good. We looked at it and said, it's perfectly functionable. Is it dated? Yes. So we just didn't see it as a priority. If there's something that really needs addressing, obviously bring it sooner.
Yeah. You know, I think
That's the only reason it got moved out.
one of the things that has come out of the discussion is that if we're gonna do anything, it may be worth getting a professional who can help figure it out, because there's probably a fair amount of unused space with, and ladies' money, where there's, ladies' locker room, there's 50 lockers in there. And they're really just used for storage. There's a lot of really dead
Check it out,
space in there.
reconfiguring.
Yes, but that would be a down the road thing. So I just kind of,
Closets
One-
by
Men's
design.
probably the same.
that's it. There you go. Yeah. Well, sorry.
Closets
Anyway.
by design, you know, one of those kind of places, like,
No, I think this is,
We share lockers.
how many do you have in there?
Whatever.
Anyway.
Yeah, he needs lunch.
I was just gonna say,
He
if you
needs
want one blood
lunch, yes, he
sugar,
is, yeah.
I'm done.
Any other comments?
Any other supervisor requests or comments?
I'll make a motion.
1:04 PM, is there a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned at 1:04 PM. Thank you.
Thank you.
See if we have
She
any
gave us
AC.
lunch on some of these.